All right, so we're going to get started. Thanks everyone for showing up. I know on a summer night, 3 hours sitting and listening to people talk is not everyone's ideal, but you get to play after, so that's kind of worth it. We have some really great speakers, so I'm really excited about this. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about me, myself, why I organize this. I'm a physical therapist, but I specialize in racket sports injuries. I actually work inside of the Heights here, so my clinic is in the back. And I see people obviously with different padel and squash and pickleball. And so I kind of thought, how can I get something together for all of the different paddle and racket sport athletes? So I came up with some speakers that kind of can go across all of the different sports. So anyways, that's what we're going to talk about today is racket sports performance across all the different racket sports. And then a little bit about some housekeeping. We have bathrooms right outside here. There's water and snacks over there if you want. We will have a break halfway through for like 5 minutes. A little bit of break in between the speakers, but not too much. So, and then when the speakers talk, we have a little Q&A afterwards. But I want it to be kind of general questions that you think are relevant to the sport, not I have a bad knee. What should I do about my knee? That kind of thing. If you have those questions and you want to ask us afterwards, feel free. Okay. Okay. And then before we get started, I wanted to thank the Heights. So the Heights is obviously the host of the event here, and they've been like absolutely great for letting us put this on here. They're donating the free court space for everyone later. They helped secure getting Mo Elhouni for the keynote speaker today. So thank you to the Heights. So make sure you, I think when Glenn walks in here, you can all tell him thank you. And then before we get started, I do want to introduce Kristen Schumann, who's the Executive Director of RSPA Northern. So visit their table after or during our break or after, but she's going to come up and just tell us a little bit about her organization, and then we'll start with the first speaker.
Yeah, thanks, Julie, for inviting us here. As you said, I'm Kristen Schumann, the Executive Director for Racquet Sports Professional Association here in Northern Division. So what we do is we certify coaches in pickleball, padel, tennis, platform tennis, and squash. So come over, say hello to us, introduce yourself, and we're excited to be here. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, before we get to Rasa, I'm just going to give you a little time frame here for So Rasa is the sports dietitian who will start us off with some great information about fueling. Then we're going to have Dr. Matt Mikesell, who's the sports psychologist. We're going to have a little breather, and then we get the off-court training by me. And then finally, the keynote is Mo Elhouni. And then after that, we get to hit the courts. If you choose to, you can play padel. If you're interested about that, we have some players that will be here to help you understand the rules and all of that if you have never played. And then also you get the chance to hit the courts with Mo, the pickleball courts with him. So please take advantage of that. Everyone is excited about playing with Mo, I think. Okay, so our first speaker is Rasa Troop. She is a registered dietitian. She's board certified specialist in sports dietetics with more than 20 years of experience in sports and performance nutrition. Her impressive resume includes work with the University of Minnesota Athletics, the Minnesota Vikings, the Minnesota Twins, Vibrant, the Emily Program, and the University of Minnesota Physicians. So Rasa brings an athlete's perspective to her work. I first met Rasa, I don't know if you remember this, Rasa, at the University of Minnesota. So I was a student athletic trainer and Rasa was an athlete there. So she was a runner at the University of Minnesota. She earned All-American honors in cross country. She later represented Lithuania at the 2008 Olympic Games in Beijing, competing in the first ever Olympic women's 3,000 meter steeplechase and setting a Lithuanian national record. Today, Rasa owns her own business in which she's able to work with athletes of all abilities, from recreational competitors to professionals. Her approach moves away from the fad diets and rigid food rules and quick fixes. Instead, she helps athletes develop practical, sustainable fueling strategies that support both performance and long-term health. Rasa is very well respected in the sports medicine community and has presented at numerous sports medicine conferences throughout the Twin Cities. So please join me in welcoming Olympian and sports dietitian Rasa Troop.
Thank you, Keely, for this warm introduction. I was just sharing how, regardless how many talks I've done over the years, speaking is not easy for me, and I'm not originally from United States. So please, please, if something that I'm speaking in this presentation is not clear or you don't understand it, raise your hand, correct me. I am really humbled and honored to be here. And before I'm gonna dive into our conversation, I kind of wanted to, oh, should I go? Um, Before I'm going to dive into our conversation, I kind of wanted to ask you a few questions, and maybe you can turn to a neighbor or maybe speak, three or four of you, maybe introduce yourself first and share what you would like to learn. It's not only what you like to learn from nutrition session, but all of the sessions. And also, the second question I wanted to ask, what language do you hear in anywhere, social media, in the world, in society as it relates to bodies and food? Okay, what type of language, what type of like conversations do you hear in those two areas related to body and the food? And I'll give you a few minutes. You can group in the way like into your neighbor, and then I'll come back to. All right, I'll give you maybe 15 seconds or so to come back to the room. Okay. All right, let's come back into the room. And I don't know if anyone wants to like speak up about things that you've talked. Maybe something stood out for you. I don't want to pick on people, so maybe someone would like to share what they discussed and what they want to learn. Anything? You were raising it? No? No, okay. Yes.
I think to your question of what we typically hear as language around nutrition is in sports, it's almost always about weight.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Either decreasing weight or increasing mass. One of the two.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate you.
The conversation I hear is, John, step away from the cookies. The sugar, the sugar, the sugar. And here I am.
Well, we'll talk how those cookies actually fit. So we'll talk a little bit about it. Okay.
I want to learn like how to fuel myself like throughout a tournament. Because I don't feel hungry.
Makes sense. Thank you. Very good. Okay. Awesome. Anything else that comes up?
I hear a lot about protein, protein, protein. How much protein you need? How much is too much? Is there such a thing as too much protein?
Thank you.
Let's see if I can phrase this. So let's say I'm going to play tonight at 8 o'clock. When, yeah, or whatever time, whatever time. Like when to eat, not just what to eat, but when to eat. Because I feel like if I eat a certain amount before I play, I like the old saying is the blood goes to your belly and not my head, and I'm still in a funk So
Makes
like when
sense.
to eat as well as
What to eat, when, and what? Okay.
before performance.
Yeah, I see the hand.
I'm curious what your thoughts on some of these powders that you put into your water that are high in, very high in salt, but some are high in caffeine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that good to have in your body when you're out
Mm-hmm.
exercising.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Anything else? And I will be sharing this presentation, so please don't feel like you need to record it. And what I'll do, I'm going to be watching what you've talked today or what you asked, and I'm all going to try to answer these questions in the conversation. And if I didn't, I'll include the resources so Keely can send it to you, some blogs or podcasts or good web pages to go, because I have limited time to cover all of this. And this is what I plan. I plan to have 3 parts. One, talking about the daily nutrition. How do I do nutrition on a daily basis? 2, how do I fuel my body for the tournament? And how do I recover? Do you guys see that okay through that? Do you see it okay, the screen? Okay, because you can move it as well if okay. So this is what I plan to do, but I can always veer back to these questions and try to answer these questions. And please feel free to interrupt me if there's something else that you would like to ask. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about daily nutrition first. And can you hear me without the microphone in the back? Okay. I actually decided to split the daily nutrition I don't like to split to the parts of the body, but as a dietitian, usually people come to see me for a few different reasons. One is a weight. Another, they may have a stress fracture. Another, they may have injury for in the muscle or the tendon. They may have GI distress. So I actually try to pull the most, frequent reasons why people show up in nutrition sessions. Okay. So I'm going to start with the bone. So bone is one of the tissues that is very similar patterns of repair and breakdown as a muscle tissue. So bone and muscle does repair and breakdown on a constant basis, right? Bone is incredibly sensitive to 2 things: nutrition and physical activity. Okay. But if you do a lot of physical activity and you do not provide enough fuel for the bone, I see very poor bone mineral density, even in the young athletes, as 14, 15, who have bone mineral density as if they are older women or men. Okay. So bone tissue gonna give you a story. So if you have a lot more stress fractures or stress reactions, you may try to think, do I get enough fuel? Because there's 2 main things about bone that we need to understand about food. I need to bring enough fuel, and I need actually to distribute fuel evenly throughout the day. I can wake up in the morning and skip my breakfast, go to school, have just a little bit for lunch, and then binge at the dinner, because that first part of the day for 6 or 8 hours, your bone will sense, I have no fuel. I don't need to repair my tissues. I will be breaking it down. Okay. So eating regularly and enough are the 2 most important things in nutrition that teach every single human being that comes to my office. As I mentioned to you, I'm going to try to be very simple in my explanations. But even if I'm simple in explanations, I don't think that this is really easy to do for people. If I'm simplifying nutrition, I know how difficult it is to change our nutrition, because it is behavior change. And we typically change things when it really hurts us, when it doesn't work very well. And most of the time, unfortunately, people want to change nutrition when they have injury, GI distress, or some kind of eating disorder. That's how we typically look into nutrition. But what else do we need to know? It's not the bone also contains protein inside, not only calcium and magnesium. But protein by itself, that trend of crazy protein trend that we have right now, it's in everything, in chips, and you name it, right? Coffee. It's just became this really, really popular thing in the last few years. Protein by itself would not be able to fuel your bone. You need a team of nutrients, both carbohydrate and protein, needs to be present for our bodies to repair our tissues, muscle, and bone. In fact, the latest research in relative energy deficiency, that's the syndrome when we don't get, it's not a syndrome, I think it's relative energy deficiency in sports is basically um, effect on the body with lack of fuel. If we, if we are training hard but we don't provide enough nutrition, we have a mismatch between how much fuel our body gets and how much our body needs to perform. And that mismatch is actually when they did the research and they had two groups of athletes, one group of athletes that had not enough carbohydrates and another group of athletes that didn't have enough calories. The carbohydrate lagging group had more effects on the bone, muscle, and all of the organs compared to calorie deficit. I don't promote the calorie deficit or carbohydrate deficit, but I just wanted to tell carbohydrates are important. Cookies are part of the carbohydrate and they're also important. Okay, I just watched the time. Okay, now the muscle tissue. We're gonna go to muscle tissue. That's another piece. One of the biggest things to understand about muscle tissue, just like with the bone, enough and regular exposure to the food. I'll talk about it, how to know if it's enough for you later in this conversation. But there's a few things that we need to understand as we getting older, our protein needs may increase a little bit. Minimally, we want to provide at least 30 grams of protein with each meal, which is about that, right? As we age, our protein needs will increase to a whole palm, a whole hand, actually. So there's many reasons why, but it's much harder as we age because we don't have the same appetite. We don't seem to be hungry, so we have to be creative. So work with sports dietitian or dietitian who understands how to match the foods together that you can get nutritional needs met. There's lots of ways to do it. You don't have to eat the steak to get your protein needs met, okay? So minimum amount of protein. We also know a lot more about creatine monohydrate, and the research is interesting in both brain and the muscle. And the latest development in creatine is actually actually when we sleep deprived, which I don't recommend for anybody, if we give 20 grams of creatine for brain that is sleep deprived, it actually decreases side effects of sleep deprivation. So something about the brain that is a little different than a muscle, and brain creatine may be like for the brain, we may need a little bit more than muscle, because for the muscle tissue, we need only about 5 to 10 grams. For the brain, we may need a little bit more. Now, I'm the person who can't take a creatine. There are some side effects of creatine because I develop exertional, what is it called? No, it's exertional compartmental syndrome because my fascia must not be able to accumulate because the creatine pulls a little bit more water, so improves hydration and carbohydrate. And for some reason, my fascia may not be functioning very well. When I was younger, I was able to do it, but not at this point. So I don't know yet. There's still very, very limited research in this, actually. I thought I was the only one until a physician from Chicago talked about it. And I was like, oh, I'm not the only one. I'm not crazy. You have the same, oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay. So enough regular, minimum amount of protein, this much. Creatine, omega-3 fatty acids because it decreases inflammation and also improves muscle protein synthesis. Majority of us don't get enough omega-3s because we don't, it's hard to get 1 to 3 grams of omega-3s via the fish or seafood. So most of us may need to supplement actually. So that's one of the nutrients that is difficult to get via the nutrition. The other things to know, if you are sore and if you need to decrease muscle soreness, there are other strategies. The plant compounds like pomegranate or tart cherry juice or beetroot juice improves the kind of blood flow. But tart cherries decrease the muscle soreness, so does pomegranate. There's also red currant research from New Zealand. There's a few things that can be helpful. Most of those compounds come from plants because plants contain those polyphenols that decrease inflammation. Okay. Alrighty. Now the third area of nutrition that is concerning is actually GI tract. Now, What is very fascinating that in about the last 5 years, we have a lot more research. Majority of the people who show up in my session have sort of irritable bowel or maybe IBS symptoms. And there's multiple reasons why, but the research is able to identify if we don't get regularity or if our food intake is chaotic, most likely GI tract also be chaotic. GI tract also likes to be fed every 3 to 5 hours. If we grazing and snacking throughout the day, it may not be actually very good for our GI tract because GI tract has these cleaning waves and they typically appear when we don't eat and they happen every 3 to 5 hours. So one of the important things to see if I'm taking antibiotics, do I need to add more fermented foods, probiotics into my nutrition? Is my diet diverse? More diverse diet, more diverse microbiome, better for the gut. Now, what is MAC? MAC is, oh my gosh, I keep forgetting that acronym, so I have to read about it. Microbiota accessible carbohydrates. And what that means is basically complex carbohydrates that can be digested in the latter portion of GI. So small intestine has typically absorbs very simple ultra processed carbohydrates right in the first part. But we would like to have a mixture of ultra processed simple carbohydrates when we perform, because at that time we want fast carbohydrates like cookies or something like a fruit snacks. But on a daily basis, we would like to include those carbohydrates that are digested lower in intestine. So that would be whole grains, resistant starches, fruits and vegetables. Okay. Plants, more plants, and then maintaining hydration. Now, how do I put this all together? And I'm so sorry again, I'll send this presentation to you so you will have that visual. I make it so simple. I need a brain food, which is a color, at least a fist or 2 fists. I need a muscle food, which is the protein, somewhere in vicinity of hand. And I need energy food, which is carbohydrate, 1 to 2 fists, depending on your activity. Okay? If we make nutrition that simple, you can sit down and say, do I have at least 3 fists of volume of the food? The grain content will vary depending on your physical activity. The protein content stays very stable, and the vegetable and fruit content, I never limit. So it can be anywhere between 1 to 2 fists of the color, 1 to 2 fists of the grain, and anywhere between here to here of the protein. I omitted fat and calcium in there, but I can talk a little bit more. If you can sit at the meal and see if you have those pieces together, and it's at least a 3 fists, I'm at least meeting my minimum needs. Does that make sense at all? At each meal, yes. Nope. No, not at all. Now, again, that's a simplified looking at the food, okay? I intended to do another activity, but I'm gonna skip to make sure I go through this whole presentation. And if we have time, we're gonna go into activity. How's that? Okay. Okay, so we're gonna go to tournament nutrition. And again, this is very busy slide, so I'm so sorry about it. But the basics of the tournament nutrition, we need to have some sort of fuel that's very easy accessible to us during the tournaments. Typically, it's very simple carbohydrate. Ultra processed carbohydrate, in fact, I use very frequently before, during, and after matches because they are small volume, dense in carbohydrates, and deliver energy very fast. Now, there's all sorts of ways to get this carbohydrate. It can be fruit snacks, it can be maple syrup, it can be something that's like in the sports drinks. And one of the biggest things to understand that your body uses at least 1 gram of carb per minute of the match, right? Carbohydrates, a villainized food group, and many athletes are under fueling their carbohydrates as it relates to matches or competitions or even practices. Many athletes have a problem saying that their GI tract will not tolerate food, but GI tract is a muscle and it can be trained. So I call this GI training, where I move gradually, meal closer and closer and closer to the match or practice. Usually I don't practice before matches because that's not a very good idea. So I practice before practices, right? And then I start practicing more carbohydrate during the practices as well. So, and GI tract adapts. It can adapt. Okay. So the key to have some kind of meal 2 to 3 hours before that doesn't have a lot of vegetable, because vegetable and high fat foods will stay in the stomach. So you want maybe something simple, sandwiches or wraps or something like that. And then you're switching to very simple carbohydrates. And during the game, you're trying to figure out what type of carbohydrate can I tolerate and eat, because as Keely mentioned, this is prescriptive eating part. You won't feel like eating. That's a planned or prescriptive eating plan. It's not intuitive eating. This nutrition is not for everyday person. I'm not going to be asking ultra processed foods to be part of nutrition for someone who is not athlete. In fact, I turned off the judgmental language about the food, because when I ask you the question, what language do you hear about the food or bodies? What we hear is constant judgment and shame as it relates to people's eating and bodies. And what I urge you to ask yourself, because we have diverse bodies for a reason, we have diverse eating for a reason. If someone is making negative comment about your food or bodies, I will ask what they're telling themselves. And judgment will not help you to improve your nutrition. It anchors into the shame cycle, and shame cycle is not a good place to learn. In fact, with nutrition, I talk about C minus work consistently showing up rather than doing it perfectly. Because if you are aiming for C minus work, you're more likely to show up, to be messy, to not know how to do it, to not know how your body will respond. And this is collective work. I work on this daily. I also have shame and judgment, all sorts of things. But if we transition shame to curiosity and C minus work and showing up, we will improve our nutrition and we'll listen more to our bodies. Some other ideas that are high carbohydrate, some ideas that have carbohydrate and protein. Again, those slides will be given to you. Some ideas that of the bars, because guess what? Bars are full of protein and have no carbohydrate. So these are more denser sources of carbohydrate that have some carbohydrate and some protein. It's also important to know that one of the fastest way to decrease in performance is to not hydrate well. One of the nutrients that will affect your performance the fastest would be dehydration. So looking into not only what you're drinking during the practice or match time, but looking what you're doing throughout the day. Because many athletes show up on the court without enough fuel and hydration. So just drinking throughout the day would be much better recipe, and seeing what your urine color is like. And then another way of, sometimes I'm asking people, like, have a full gulps every 15 to 30 minutes. You can just like have some kind of a bottle, and it doesn't have to be just water. It can be electrolytes as well. I'm gonna skip this and I'm gonna go to recovery nutrition. And then what do we need to know about recovery? If you are practicing and then you don't have another practice for another 24 hours, that window within 15 to 30 minutes of eating is not as important, because you have at least 24 hours to recover. Now, if you have multiple times to practice throughout the day, and if you're competing at the end of the day and you're competing in the morning, then I actually want you to have a snack right away when you leave the court, because it will jumpstart your recovery, and recovery is much faster. If you delay that snack, the glycogen, which is carbohydrate storage in the muscle that drives your performance, will be delayed by almost 30% in synthesis rates. So it will take you a little bit longer to get back to normal if you are delaying that snack or meal. And sometimes for consistency, I just say, regardless, if you're going to compete in 24 hours, you just establish the practice. As you put your gear together, you have a snack, chocolate milk, go in the car and go home and eat the dinner. And it's, again, it's not, I kind of hate telling people what to do, because I want them to practice different strategies, because I trust you with your bodies and with your wisdom. And you have so many more strategies than me. Yes, I worked in this field for 20 years and I've heard a lot of stories, but each of you have enormous amount of wisdom, what your body does.
I would encourage you to think differently about that, because some of us that are training or sometimes if you just tell me what to do, that's so much easier than me trying to think about it, figure it out. And
Absolutely.
options.
Yeah, I hear that
I
often.
apologize for that because that is just that's easy.
Yep,
You tell me milk in the car and eat at home, I can do that.
makes sense. Yeah, and I think I hear it often, and I think the reason because we disconnected from our bodies. Listening to our bodies is an art, and it's very difficult, and it's easier for us to follow the rules. And that's nothing wrong. Again, I'm not saying. So if you at that phase of your life where I need this prescription, I'll give you a prescription. But if you're at the phase of your life, I really want embodiment. I really want to see what I'm doing inside of how my body feels. Then it's a transition because by age 5, we disconnect from our bodies because our bodies, especially as women, become unsafe. So we disconnect. We don't even know what the hunger feels. So that's why nutrition is not only food. It's food is that little, and it's all of this other stuff is very important. Access to food. What I'm talking is a privilege because where I grew up, whatever was given you eating, whether it's carbohydrate, protein, or fat, you're just eating. I grew up as a young child in Soviet Union. Soviet Union collapsed when I was 13. So I've seen a lot of different things growing up. But what we're talking here, I know it's a privilege. Some people cannot access the food. Some people cannot get to the grocery store. Some people have 50, like a lot of kids to watch and a lot of jobs. Okay, I want to make sure I finish on time. Okay, so some takeaways. Language, if there's judgment or shame, transition to curiosity. Speak kind as if you speak to your friend. That's going to help you a little bit more to be curious about nutrition and to explore. Adequacy rather than restrict, diet restrained. My job in the last 2 years became so much more complicated because all what we hear on TV right now, how people shrinking their bodies. So one of the biggest things I can tell you, because I see people who using the GLP medications on a daily basis, and we're doing massive human experiment on people's bodies. When I talked about bone and muscle, the research is not existing on a bone, but I'm assuming it's going to be very similar strategies that we see in athletes who don't get enough fuel despite lifting and having enough protein. Because what the pharmaceuticals telling you, if you lose a muscle, just lift weights and eat a lot of protein. What we already know in athletes, with a lot of protein and lifting weights, they still lose bone when they don't get enough fuel. So we're prescribing, and I don't have anything against medication because it's a wonderful place for people to get for diabetes. But when we prescribe off label, for what reason, then I start asking ethical questions. We creating the problem where it wasn't a problem. And now pharmaceuticals even talking about another drug to prevent muscle loss. So I'm thinking, is it steroids that athletes use that they're developing? So we can hook people to shrink their bodies rather than to live their lives. Okay. Muscle, energy, and brain food with each meal. Carbs and fluids during matches. Recovery can only happen with nutrition. And consult with sports dietitian if you have questions. And I'm not the only one in the community of sports dietitians. So you can, okay, we have 3 minutes. Is that, okay.
All right, so if anyone has any questions for Rasa.
So you shortly mentioned where GLP-1s are GLP-3s now. Is
Yeah.
there a world where high performance athletes can take those separately?
That's a good question. So they are not banned by WADA, World Anti-Doping Agency. However, there's some competitions you can have needles, right? So the regulations are unclear. What's happening?
From a super micro, from anyone in this room, not necessarily an Olympian or a professional football
Yeah,
player,
yeah.
like that. Is there a world where high level rec and players and athletes can work GLP-3s, especially into their training, or should they stay separate?
I work with a lot of people who taking that medication. So there's a lot of work being very smart in fueling your body because it suppresses appetite even more. And so you know the data. We killed more people with this medication than fen-phen. Fen-phen was pulled off the market. This medication is killing people, and we don't care. We're killing people in the larger bodies in the name of money, right? So one of the biggest things for me is to just know that, yes, I have compassion for people wanting to shrink the bodies because larger body people are considered not humans. So it's another form of discrimination that people experiencing when they enter the rooms, right? So I get it because they were discriminated the entire lives of theirs, right? But I'll tell you, larger bodied people dieted more than anyone else I've ever encountered in my life because I work with diverse people in my practice. So one of the biggest things I would say to you, this medication's been there for 20 years, and I worked with this medication for many, many years, but mostly with diabetes. And we can figure out how to do this medication, and maybe dose is very low, but it's also knowing that 50% of people will never lose weight on that medication. And they may die from that. So that's the data also shows that 89% of the people would not sustain to be on a medication because of the side effects. So there's a lot of pieces, and they're using very similar playbook that the narcotics used. So basically, hook people on, make them believe they not belong in this world, make them buy into that, then make it very recurring problem that you will take for the rest of your life.
I didn't have a question. I was just kind of.
Oh, okay, sorry.
What's your what are your thoughts on it?
It's not congruent with what I know about the bodies. So the research, if you think about performing athletes, I would say absolutely no, because I didn't speak about the bedtime snack and why it is important for the testosterone and growth hormone release. So for me, I would rather look at like spreading your meals 3 to 5 hours apart rather than eating only 8 hours. And especially if you under fueling those whatever 14 hours, signal to your body I don't get enough food. And women may lose even menstrual cycles because they don't get enough fuel in the one part of the day only. Now, males are more protected from it because they have more testosterone. But for the women, especially, I have not seen any woman yet in my practice who can sustain that pattern of eating without side effects. So, and the initial data came from the mice studies, and the mice are nocturnal, humans are diurnal. Mice also, actually the fat metabolism is very different. Now we have human studies, and what human studies says actually the early eating window is better because we're more insulin sensitive. But it doesn't work with your private life, with your life of going out for dinner with your wife and having a glass of wine if you're eating if you're using early window.
Brunch.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. No, you're good. All right, so I'm going to introduce our next speaker. Okay, so our next speaker is Dr. Matt Mikesell. He's a licensed psychologist and certified mental performance consultant with Premier Sports Psychology. Matt has worked with hundreds of athletes from youth and high school competitors to collegiate, Olympic, and professional athletes, helping them build confidence, improve focus, strengthen resilience, and perform more consistently under pressure. Matt was also a two-sport collegiate athlete, serving as a captain of both his soccer and track teams. He earned his master's degree in sport and performance psychology from the University of Denver and his doctorate in psychology from the University of North Texas. Matt has worked extensively with tennis players and more recently pickleball players, so he understands the mental challenges that are especially relevant to racket sports, whether it's closing out a match, recovering after a mistake, maintaining confidence, or handling pressure when the outcome is on the line. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Matt Mikesell.
All right. Thank you for the intro. That covers a lot, and we have a lot to cover today. So I just want us to jump right into it. And I have this question. I'm kind of curious, and I want you to each think for a moment, and then we're going to get up and move around for a quick second. I have no idea how this is going to play out in this group. So I'll be curious with you. I want you to maybe close your eyes or picture like your best performance. It could be from more recently. It could be back from a year or two ago or whatever it might be. But I want you to think about your best performance and enjoy that moment. Right? You can celebrate the moment again for a second. And what I want us to think about is what was your X factor that day? There's a lot that goes into successful performances. What was your X factor that day? Did we eat a really good meal beforehand? Our pre-fueling was spot on. Were we feeling really rested? Did you have a good warm up? Or were we feeling really confident, really motivated? We felt in the zone, stuff like that. So take a second and think about that. And if we broadly kind of categorize some of that on the physical side, right? Sleep, nutrition, essential for good performance. If that was your X factor that day, I want you to just like shift over to this side of the room just for a minute. You don't have to like take all your stuff with you. But if your X factor was more on like the mental side, again, focus, you were really motivated, you were really confident, things like that, I want you to shift over to this side. Grab a cookie while you're at it if you want. But physical, mental. Okay, that's the knee thing, right? All right. All right. We have uh there's always one or two that is like guaranteed physical. I did this with the group last week. I work with the Vikings, and there was a rookie that came in, and he would have hit his head on the ceiling, his shoulders on the door. I looked at him, I said, "Yeah, spot on, definitely physical for you." But tell me about this. What do we make of this here? How many of us, if our X factor for our best ever performance was something on the mental side, how many of us train our mindset on like a daily basis? Okay, okay. How many of us like systematically train that on like a weekly basis or a monthly basis? Right? Like there's some avenues of this. This is what we train when we're thinking of sports psychology, right? This is the X factor. It's in a lot of ways like nutrition too. This doesn't necessarily fueling right doesn't make your serve that much better, but it unlocks what you are truly capable of. You can go ahead and take a seat. So when we're thinking of sports psychology, this is a lot of our work. I also want you to think of that situation, and raise your hand too if you've been in the situation where you're up 5-2, you're playing great, and then maybe you realize you're up 5-2, and somehow something changes. Right? Raise your hand if you've been there. Right? Because you suddenly just got worse, just like that. Right? Like you suddenly, like there's something that happens in those moments. Right? First set, second set, whatever it might be. There's something that happens there. But this is not a skill problem. Like, let's be really clear about that. You didn't just get bad in the matter of, 2 seconds in between points, right? This isn't a skill problem. What the research looks at, anytime we're looking at sports psychology, by the way, we are grounding the work that we're doing in research. I am all for feeling motivated. I am all for the rah-rahs, right? And fire emojis and all that. Anything that we do, though, is going to be make sure that we are grounded in research. So let's check out the research. Well, we know that experts actually choke more and not less. We would kind of think of that as counterintuitively, like if you're that good, then you shouldn't be choking. Actually, that's not the case. We have evidence that looks at why and how our mechanics break down under pressure. It's not that we just got bad. There's something about mechanics, and it has a lot to do with our intentional attention breaking down under pressure. And then protecting a lead changes how you play. That whole like play to win and not to lose is actually something to that one, right? And it has its roots in behavioral economics, believe it or not. Loss aversion, for example. So what does pressure actually do to our body? Because what we're going to do is talk about how do we handle that. I want us to make sure that we leave today with really concrete skills of what to do, because I think it's a lot of the times in sports psychology we need to balance two things: developing a deeper understanding of what's going on and why, but also the skills of how to actually make that happen on the court, right? You may have a better understanding of the technique and be a better coach, so to speak, than a higher level player. But if you can actually translate that into your play, it doesn't matter, right? If I'm working with athletes of all levels, I think the youngest right now is 8 years old, maybe. Parents probably want it more than he does. The oldest athlete, 72-year-old ballroom dancer, and she wants every bit of it. Like, she's super motivated. So this is for athletes at all levels, right? But at the end of the day, what they want to do is be able to perform better, right? Feel better, yes, but a lot of times when it comes to performance, we want to be able to perform better too. So I wanted to make sure we leave here today with actionable strategies based in science to help you perform better at 9 o'clock tonight. Okay. So what does pressure actually do to our body? Let's get a good understanding of that. Pressure in our body is, it starts off with our fight or flight, our sympathetic system. Our body is wired to, and we'll get into this later, is to scan for threats. Our brain on default doesn't really help us out too much. It is a threat scanning machine. It's doing its job, but it's not really helpful when we're out on the court. All right, so our amygdala fires to a threat response or a perceived threat response. I was talking with someone earlier today about the idea of a smoke alarm. When does a smoke alarm go off? When there's trouble, when there's smoke. What was the first one you said? Well, yeah, when there's already a fire. Has anyone ever did what I've definitely done and opened the dishwasher too early?
Or if you're making bacon.
Or you're making bacon, you burn the popcorn, right? It's not always when you're actually in danger. It signals to go off and, hey, something's going on. Same thing with our brain. But our signal, our fight or flight, is going to be activated as if we are in danger. Our amygdala is going to kick in. What happens on the court? Our grip tightens. It kills our touch. It kills our spin, right? We have cortisol and potentially adrenaline in a good way. We'll talk about how to leverage that, flooding through our system. What does that translate to? 99% of the time when I'm working with tennis players and with pickleball players, it is we are rushing, we stop moving, and we become still, right? 99% of the time. One of those things, whether we're singles or doubles, it shows up in that way. Our cadence is off, we become tight, things start breaking down. Heart rate spikes, muscles tighten. If you try to, if you've ever done this one before, go ahead and take an arm and squeeze as tight as you can and throw a fist. Go ahead and do that with me. Squeeze as tight as you can, throw a fist, right? Not super fluid. Now relax for that same fist. That's fluid. An extreme example of what happens under stress is our muscles tighten up. There is no way we can have a smooth and effective swing if we're playing like this. Prefrontal cortex goes offline. That's our part that's responsible for decision-making, planning, things like that. We start fixating on the score, not the ball, not the shot. Our attention narrows. That can be a good thing to some extent, but when we are under distress, our attention narrows too much and we miss important environmental cues. I was talking with an athlete the other day in which there was a lot to take in, right? And we're talking about the impact of stress, of cognitive load. Attention narrows, and the thing that you knew off the court, all of a sudden, your mind just goes blank. Oh, I knew that. I knew I should have gone there. I knew that was a space. Our mind just goes blank. That's what pressure does to our body. As a part of all that, this is all happening, and this is why some of what we tend to hear people say when we're in that 5-2 and it's breaking down. What do we hear people say? What is the feedback that you get from a friend or a coach or whoever it might be? What do people say in those moments where performance is just dropping? What's that? You're choking. Hopefully they're more confident and giving you encouraging than that. Yeah, you're choking over there. You got it. Okay. What else?
Relax.
Just relax. Just relax. As if it was that easy.
Find your flow.
Find your flow. How? What else? Next one. Okay, just reset. Goldfish. Be a goldfish. This season 4 come out today, I think. Right? So all of these ideas, this is great. And none of this actually targets the very first thing that we have on here, your fight or flight. All of this doesn't really do much. So what do we actually do? What do we actually do about that? Here are some other examples. Just be confident. Just be confident. Try harder. Try less hard. Be positive. Stay calm. Just do it, right? Just relax. Let's figure out what we actually should be doing. Okay, roll with me on this. We're going to kind of look through a couple different things, and then we're going to do at least one, if not a couple different exercises here together. Our thoughts or our brain can be in any one of these 3 places, right? Past, present, or future. If I kind of use like the stick figure drawing to represent that, I'll have it be our head, right? Our stick figure. Can be in any one of 3 different spots. We know, research indicates that we spend a large majority of our time in the past and the future. And that is that benefited us back in the day, right? It was really beneficial to anticipate where threats might be coming from, to remember where threats were before, right? Kind of survival of the species. The traits that were helpful for our survival got passed along. So it made a lot of sense for us to kind of have these ping pongs back and forth between the past and the future. Anyone want to guess what percentage of time we spend in the past and the future? More than the present, yes. Let's build on that. 75%? Do I hear 90? Do I hear 95? 95 over here, okay. I don't know how we find this number out, but we spend about 80% of the time in the past and the future. And just think about the implications of that, right? Examples that I often hear of from this are on the past, I wish I would have, I didn't train hard enough, I'm not prepared. And then in the future, that's often things like, shoot, what happens if I lose? How are people going to perceive me if this doesn't go well? This is going to be embarrassing. There's implications. Stuff feels like it's at stake, right? And that gets really loud, and that gets right here, and it's really hard to play if there's stuff right here. Where does best performance happen? Past, present, or future? Okay. Absolutely. So right away, we have a heck of a lot of inertia to overcome, because that's only 20% of the time. So what do we do with that? And how can we leverage other things that are in the present to help us with that? A lot of times, if we go to like, just stay calm, just be confident, a lot of times those statements that we make, we try to like outthink worry, fear, anxiety. Has everyone ever tried that, by the way? How effective is that? To outthink our own thoughts? Definitely not. That's that hamster wheel, right? Because sometimes what happens there, it's only if on the other side of this or that, then I'll be okay, or then I'll know for sure, or whatever it might be. But there's always another scenario that we can think about, right? So it's like fighting fire with fire. That doesn't quite work. Just like in a smoke alarm, if I just burnt the heck out of that popcorn, smoke alarm is going off, and I'm saying, it's okay, user error, just me, right? That doesn't do anything for the smoke alarm. We don't have to tell the smoke alarm that we're safe. We need to show it that it's safe, right? We need to show the smoke alarm that we're safe by removing the smoke, right? By changing the environment. That's what we have to do. And we can do that, we can tap into that by leveraging things that are in the present moment, because we know performance is in the present. So we have to get back to the present. So let's leverage strategies that are in the present moment, such as our body, our environment around us, to not only bring us back, but also start to activate that parasympathetic. Think of like a parachute coming down to bring us out of fight or flight. Okay, with me so far? Going fast? What thoughts or questions do we have? Okay. My next question is how? How do we do that? Like this. I want you to, by the way, when you have that, see this picture, do you smile a little bit? Like, what do you feel when you see this picture? We wouldn't be in a presentation with a psychologist if I didn't ask you how you felt. So how do you feel seeing this picture? What's that?
Like what's about to happen.
What's about to happen? Oh no. It feels emotional. Yeah. Oh, you want to help out?
The worst is over.
The worst is over.
The worst is over. Smile.
Yeah. Oh, so we have a perennial optimist in our presence. Love it. Yeah. There's a part of me that's like, oh, I'm just bracing for it, right? I have a 6-year-old and an almost 3-year-old, so this feels like really, really real for me. Okay, so how does this actually connect to your best performance on the court? Think of the last time you heard someone cry. And I don't mean like that was a really touching moment, a little tears trickling down. I'm really proud, right? I mean like sobbing, right? What does that sound like? Does anyone want to volunteer? I'll volunteer. At some, it's a, and then at some point there's a, right? That that hitch in our breath is exactly the thing that we need to do on the court. And here's why. When we breathe in that way, that is our body's built-in mechanism to downregulate. It has everything to do. We'll talk about. We're going to actually do this together here. It has everything to do with manipulating your heart, with vagus nerves, with phrenic nerves, with the sinoatrial nodes. There's a lot here that I'll let you look at, but I think from an application standpoint, what we know is that, and we're going to talk about two things with breath work in a second here. What we know is that when we can breathe in this way, which is a inhale, think of that hitch, an inhale, a second inhale, and a long exhale through your mouth. That takes longer than the time for those inhales. When we can breathe, inhale, inhale, exhale, and engage the diaphragm, when we inhale, our heart gets bigger in this expanded space, which reduces the blood volume. The blood moves more slowly in that larger volume than it was before you inhaled. Your sinoatrial node, which is kind of right outside your heart, registers this and sends a signal to the brain, and the brain sends a signal to your heart to say, speed up, right? Things are slowing down in here, so pump your heart faster. So now we have an increased heart rate, right? If I want my heart to beat faster, I need to inhale longer and more vigorously than my exhales. Think of hyperventilating, right? That's exactly what that is. The same thing works in reverse. That's why we want that exhale to take longer and go slower. And this works in real time, right? From a neuropsychological standpoint, breathing in this way works in real time. How many of you have ever seen or heard or read or done any breath work before? Okay, raise your hand really high, right? Super common. There's a lot of good research. I'm not going to throw shade on that research. There's a lot of good research on breath work. Not all breathing is created equal. How many of you are breathing in this way? Not all breathing is created equal, right? So yes, let's do breath work. There's really good research on how it can slow down, but that breathing alone does not activate our parasympathetic system, which is what we need to get to in order to be at our best on the court. So why the double inhale? We know why the long exhale. Why the double inhale? The first inhale fills our lungs, especially we got to do that from a diaphragmatic standpoint. The second inhale expands these air pockets inside of our lungs called alveoli. Under stress, under pressure, under strenuous moments, they collapse. Ironically, if we took these air pockets in our lungs and spread them out, they would cover a tennis court, right? That's what we're missing when we don't take that second breath. At the same time, if you think of the physical agitation, sometimes people feel or experience that worry from a physical almost can't stay still, stand still. That's a buildup of carbon dioxide in our blood. When we can more efficiently get that out, we're in a better position to downregulate. Okay, a lot of science there. Let's actually do it though, right? Because sometimes that 7-year-old that I'm working with, whose parents are more invested than he is, doesn't care about this. He just wants to know, what do I actually do? So we're going to teach this in 2 steps. The first one is this. We have to make sure that we are engaging our diaphragm. How I teach this is, I want us to all do this together. I want you to put your middle fingers together, and I want you to put that just above your belly button. Pre-COVID, I would teach this as you would lay on the floor, knees up, and cough out. Couldn't do that in COVID anymore, so that's okay. But when you cough out, you'll feel your diaphragm there. So feel free to try that on your own at another time. But I want you to have your middle fingers together, barely touching, just in front of your belly button. If we all take a deep breath just with our chest, which is what most of us tend to do, nothing's really happening down here, right? Instead, again, not all breathing is created equal. Instead, if what we do is picture a balloon in your belly, and as you breathe in, you're actually going to push out against your hands and have that balloon expand, right? So I want you to breathe in, have that balloon expand, and you should feel a gap between your middle fingers now. Then let that air out of the balloon. That is critical to this whole process working in the way that we need to. Now, by the way, my goal, maybe tonight at 9, but after that, my goal is not for us to walk around the court like this. I'm going to secretly like that because then I know that you're doing the work, but that's not my goal. Think of this as training wheels, right? This gives us feedback, tactile feedback on how it's going. Is it actually, are we doing the thing that we need to do? So now that we can do that, let's do that same thing. We're going to breathe in that same way. But now before we exhale, do another inhale. But don't shortchange yourself on that first inhale, right? It's not a conditioning session where you know you have round 2 coming up, so we're not going to go as hard as we can round 1. Big deep breath in, second breath, and then we'll do a long audible exhale. We're not blowing up birthday candles, but a long audible exhale through your mouth. So it's going to be like this. We'll do it together. Inhale. Another inhale. Out. One more right away. Inhale. Inhale. Out. All right. That is when we say it works in real time. Research looks at 2 of those breaths is what it takes to activate our parasympathetic system. Anyone heard of box breathing before? All right, that's probably like a really common one. Again, really good research there. We got to make sure we plug in the diaphragmatic breathing as a part of that. Sometimes that gets missed. From that cadence of just the diaphragm, not the inhale, inhale, exhale, that takes about 12 breaths. Do you have time for 12 breaths in a match? No, you got to go right away, right? Inhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, inhale, exhale. You're good to go. Okay. Questions on that? Okay. So we did that part. Let's add another layer to this, right? So we have a concrete, tangible skill that we can do on the court. Now let's kind of shift gears a little bit because there's another really important piece here when we're up 5-2 or down 2-5 that I think we really need to tap into. Does anyone know who this is? Okay, tell me a little bit about this guy.
He's a famous free solo climber. He also has a brain that the more intense something gets, the more relaxed you remain.
Free solo climber. Just that. That's all. Possibly the most terrifying thing I could imagine. Like you could not pay me enough to say go climb anything that high without a rope, just a bag of chalk. How in the world? More recently, he on live TV, which we will not go into any of the ethical considerations of that, but on live TV, does anyone know what building he climbed? What was that? So I missed. I'm sorry. I don't. Maybe it was that one. I was thinking it was a different one, but was it one in Taipei? I could be. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Um, but success. I think Netflix aired it live. Anyway, this. How in the world can we do this, and what in the world can we learn from that? And it's not just go take a bunch of risks. Um, there is no way, and we started to speak about it a little bit. There is no way he could approach this or this unless if he tapped into something pretty important, and the same thing that we can tap into. And it's called the cognitive appraisal process. Research looks at this as the most, or one of the most important frameworks. We're given an actual skill and a broader framework. One of the most important frameworks that we can utilize in these high pressure, high stress moments. So out of default, we can really see something as a challenge or as an opportunity or as a threat. Out of default, our mind, being the threat detection system it is, the smoke alarm that it is, sees situations as a threat, right? I don't mean like your life's in danger, but our mind will often go to everything that's at stake, right? Or we perceive as at stake. I was in high school in the YOLO era. What is that one again? Yeah. Yodo. Is that what that this one is? Yeah. Yeah. I like that actually. So YOLO, right? And then there is FOMO. What pre-COVID probably would have said a lot of the athletes I work with would have been like the like epidemic, so to speak, of the time. What does that one stand for? Totally. Like social media has a big influence on that. Our mind always goes, or often goes to this idea of FOPO. Do you know what FOPO is? Fear of people's opinion, right? Our mind goes there. When our mind goes there out of default, as it tends to do, there is a corresponding neurochemical cascade that results in cortisol pumping through our system. What is cortisol? Stress hormone, absolutely. So now you're trying to prevent choking, and now someone's yelling at you saying you're choking, and we have cortisol pumping through our system. But we can change that. And this sounds simple, but it's super powerful. I am not one who is about positive psychology or positive self talk just for the sake of positive self talk. Research does not, and hear me out on this, research does not support empty fluff. Not every positive self-talk is empty fluff. We might be up against each other. Hey, I'm a sports psychologist, right? Like my self-talk game, it's there, right? There's no way I'm winning, right? I might say I'm the best here. There's this, and I'm trying to be all positive. There's no way, like in the back of my mind, that I actually believe that that's true. So if your positive self-talk is not rooted in truth, it's not going to be effective. So instead of just going, just stay positive. Just be happy. I hope those things are also true. But what we need to do is see the same situation, because we might not be happy that we're losing our lead of 5-2. That's now 5-3, and so on, right? But what we can do is reappraise the same situation, choose to see the same situation as a challenge or as an opportunity instead of a threat. And that's not just empty fluff. That same neurochemical reaction leads to norepinephrine in our system. And what is that? Adrenaline. And I don't know about you, I would much rather have adrenaline pumping through my system than cortisol when I'm trying to play. With me there? Okay, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to grab your phone, pen, paper, notebook, whatever it might be. It's really easy for these conversations to stay here, but we want it to show up on the court or at work or at home or whatever it might be that this feels most applicable. I want you to just take like 2 minutes and identify what are those situations that I can reappraise as a challenge or as an opportunity. Maybe it's something really stressful that we're going through. Maybe it's like, hey, I got this big tournament coming up. Maybe it's my first time later today at 9 o'clock and we're feeling a little something about that, or whatever it might be, right? What is that situation that we could use a little reappraising on? And then I want you to write down then your reappraisal. So identify that situation ahead of time and write it down. In order to have lasting impact, we need to go from like insight to actual action. So then after you write that down, I want you to then write down, when are you going to remind yourself of that? Like maybe you're setting a reminder on your phone. Maybe it's you write something on your bag or like in the paddle case or whatever it might be as a reminder of this, of what you have in there. Questions? Okay. If I get 2 more minutes? Okay, cool. So finally, let's do one more question. How would you fill this out, by the way? Confidence is what? Just yell it out. Key. I love that. That's what we always say. Confidence is key. What else? Believing in yourself. Necessary. Learnable. Is that what that was? Love it. One more. Contagious. Oh, I like that one. Okay. Confidence is a trap. Why might that be? I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's not important. Why might this be the case? Say that again. It sets results, like start shifting to the outcome a little bit. Yeah, I like that.
Something doesn't go your way, gets you off track.
Yeah. Like, what do we do when we're not all of a sudden? Totally. Totally. Yeah, say more.
I think ego can be the trap. Confidence is good to have as a swag to the court, but
Yeah.
ego can be like can mean for me like sometimes I feel like confidence, but I feel like my ego is bigger than my confidence.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you feel with the way I'm playing and stuff. I think
Totally. Appreciate that. Yeah. Sometimes I think of that as like cocky versus confident idea. Yeah, totally.
The ego is, to continue in that vein, the ego is, it's a mask, right? When you're confident, that can't be taken away. If I'm playing against one of these boys, I'm going to come in confident. I'm not going to come in with a heavy ego because soon reality will strike. But it's not going to impact my confidence.
Yeah, like your sense of self.
Right.
Totally. Yeah. I like that. I can appreciate the dialogue there. Part of why I say confidence is a trap is as a part of a larger conversation. I actually don't think, even coming from the psychologist in the room, I don't think we can control our emotions. Right? At the end of the day, we can't control our emotions. If we could, I would not have a job. Right? The game would be a lot easier. Like, problems of the world would probably go away pretty quickly. I would be very, very bored. Yeah, again, be looking for a different career field, right? And it's not for lack of trying. And in fact, I think that's actually where we do get into trouble, is that we do kind of try to squeeze and control emotions. But at the end of the day, confidence is a trap, because if we are relying on something uncontrollable to be at our best, inevitably we will be inconsistent, because that won't always be there. So what we need to do is identify, so our tendency is like confident thoughts lead to optimal performance, right? So why wouldn't we want to be confident? Like, most people come into Premier wanting to work on their confidence. So this is a little bit of an exercise to kind of help them shift this a little bit. But if we can help them see that, yes, I understand when we feel confident, we play your best. So why wouldn't we want to feel confident? That's fine. But feelings don't win matches, right? Like, how often has a feeling won you an ace? Like, no. Feelings, I'm not saying that there's no room for feelings. Feelings don't win matches. Actions and behaviors do. We have this all wrong. In reality, we can control thoughts and feelings. We can control the behavior. So what we need to do is identify the things that we're doing when we're feeling confident, the things that are in our control, and make that really consistent regardless of how we're feeling. Right? That's consistent performance. Regardless of the score, regardless if we're up, regardless if we're down, regardless of the set. Right? The cool part is the feelings come as a byproduct to that, but we don't have to have that be the focus of the story. that make sense? Okay. So how we choose to act often can and often does dictate how we feel. The behaviors lead to the feelings. The actions, the behaviors are controllable. My last exercise that I have for you is I want you to take 2 minutes on your own. Best performance, worst performance. Compare them in your mind as if you are a TV camera watching you. You don't as a TV camera person, you don't know thoughts, you don't know feelings, you don't know focus, you don't know the nerves. All you can see is what you can see, the actions and the behaviors. I want you to compare and contrast those two. And what's different? What's different in those situations? Okay. Go ahead and write down your differences real quick. Write down the differences. I mentioned this earlier. Most of the time, what I see is our cadence changes. We slow down, we speed up. Most of the time, we stop, we're on our heels, we're not bouncing. Maybe we're not as aggressive, things like that. Those are your confident actions. Those are what I want you to be consistent on, regardless of the feelings. And there we are. Okay, thoughts, questions?
I have a question first. This might be a personal question.
Okay, I thought we were
Which I said
saving
we
those.
weren't
Yeah.
gonna ask. I think someone else here, at least one other person, has the same issue. Believe it or not, even though pickleball is an underhand serve, and I find it to be one of my strong points. I was in a tournament where I could not hit the ball underhand into that square for the life of me. So I'm curious what actually happens with the yips.
Yeah.
And besides my two breath thing, is
Yeah,
there
yeah.
anything else I should be doing in that circumstance?
Really good question. Did anyone like cringe just hearing the word yips? Sometimes it's like a cursed word that we just got to do one of these things on, right? Okay, let's get into the neuroscience briefly of the yips. What actually happens? Does someone want to give me an example of a sport-specific skill that they have now mastered but they remember learning? Shout it out. Unicycling. Awesome. Not what I expected. Awesome. Great. Okay. So when we are first learning to unicycle, it was probably a lot of really deliberate thinking, right? You have to think of the balance and you have to probably really consciously focus on the movement. If I had a scanner over your brain and I could see that brain activation, I would see a lot of the prefrontal cortex lighting up. Again, that's okay. That's a good thing. It should be that way. Are we relatively proficient at unicycling now?
At one point I was.
Okay, okay. So for sake of today, we're saying absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. We know the serve, right? As you get proficient at that skill, your prefrontal cortex quiets down and your motor cortex starts to activate. That's the automatic, right? That's the flow. You don't have to think about it. And you shouldn't have to think about it. We shouldn't have to think about the exact angle of the racket or the paddle or the footwork. At some point, it just happens and that's good. Under pressure, maybe because we faulted once and now we really don't want to again, we take what was on autopilot and we say, this one really matters. So let me make sure I get it right. And we bring it back to manual control. But when you're learning to unicycle, when you're back to your serve, you don't think, okay, toss the ball, step here, shoulder here, hand here. No, you just do it, right? It's called reinvestment theory. When we spend a lot of our energy overthinking the mechanics. And what we do about that is we need to get back into the feeling of the movement. You didn't just lose that skill, right? It's more about the feeling. So what does a good serve feel like? Is it smooth? Is it there's a really good study done with javelin players and the word that they come out of there. So as you're going in javelin or coming up, you take that penultimate step and you just kind of like baseball, you have that closed motion. For a lot of them, it was that word whip, right? There was nothing mechanical about the word whip, but they didn't need mechanical instruction. They needed the feeling to reactivate the motor cortex. That's what we got to get into.
What does the feeling still make you think of the shot, think of the point, think of the next game? Like it's gonna make you think still at the moment instead of keeping your head somewhere else, taking your mind to the vacation, or taking your mind somewhere else where it's not the moment. Where
Yeah.
you're thinking about the yips or the serve.
Yep.
Is that something that, what do you think of that approach?
Yeah, if I want to make sure I restate this, so I make sure I understood it right. So, but thinking of the feeling keeps us in the moment. Is that?
Yeah, just thinking
Yeah.
of something else instead of thinking of the serve. That
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Back to back to back. I'm thinking what I'm gonna have for dinner after the match.
Yeah, I would say probably not. In terms, love that, love that. And of one, always let's figure out, just like we said earlier, right? Like we got to figure out what works for you. And most of the time, kind of bell curve sort of idea. Um, Choking comes from reinvestment theory or distraction, right? And so it's that intentional attention. If for us, that moment of stepping away to be able to step back in, totally all for that. Anyone golf? Right? That is way too long to stay like zero locked in the entire time. You have to be able to step out and step back in with intention. Love that.
Is there any data that shows, like, it's really anecdotal, but people talk about playing the best, playing very, very well after they haven't played for a while. They haven't played for a while. You play, and all of a sudden you play some of your best pickleball, kind of whatever it might be. Is there any truth to that, and is there something that you can train your mind to stay in that space?
What I see most often there is expectations drop, right? Hey, I haven't played in a while. Let me, I shouldn't be hitting a certain score or being like, I can just go play free is usually the change there. And when we can play free, whether it's because we haven't played in a while, because we're just playing with our friends, because the power went out in the storm and the scoreboard's off and I don't know, and we're just playing again, anything that it might be, if we're playing more free, more often than not, we're playing at our best.
Do you know if that technique works for panic attacks? If because sometimes my son experiences panic attacks and he doesn't even know sometimes that he's experiencing.
Yeah.
So would that breathing technique help
Yes.
him to center in? Or?
Yes, absolutely. And if that doesn't work, we circled the body because it was in the present moment. Other strategies, if you look up a 5 4 3 2 1 sensory grounding exercise. That is a yeah. Yep, and like really slow it down. But again, we're connecting with our environment. Panic attack, we're in the future. We got to bring it back to the present.
Have you worked with coaches specifically considering Gabby Wolf's work on reinvestment in how the players were taught in the first place? For example, if they were given a lot of technical information or if they were not, if you don't have a lot of technical information, how could you use reinvestment? We're basically setting them up for failure and choking. If we give them move your arm like this, set your angle like this, and then under an important point, they think, oh, coach told me this is an important point. I need to make sure I do this, and then we put the brain back into manual mode versus automatic, and then you have reinvestment. Whereas if
totally.
the coach is aware of that from the beginning, we can avoid it.
Yeah, I'd love to say that I get coaches at the very beginning before they start coaching and doing exactly that. It's usually reactive. A lot of our work when we're embedded with our pro and our Olympic teams is those are like the small, we'll use the nudge idea, right? Small change, medium impact. Like that's really what we're, that some of the differences we can make there. But yeah, absolutely. Like that stuff's important.
Was the research you had up earlier, was that Racquet?
I'd have to go back and look at the exact one, but yeah.
A lot of times in order to get better, we would drill.
Yes.
And a lot of times we'll drill so that automatically our body is able to remember how to do those things. I was wondering, how do we incorporate what you taught us during a drill session so that we can spend like 5-10 minutes just working on our mental game?
Yeah. Like how do we drill what we just said? Yeah, I think practicing pressure is a really good strategy here. A lot of times we went into that. This last year was an Olympic year. I worked with a winter Olympic sport, and they, in this particular sport, they get like one crack at it every 4 years. World Championships, kind of, but it's really just this one crack at it. So a lot of the work is around practicing pressure. The small nugget that I would say there is anything that you can do to get to that point of this one really matters. I really want this one. Maybe you're I don't condone sport betting. Maybe you're betting money on the serve, right? Maybe you are hey, no matter what, I'm going to film this and send it to my friend. Maybe I'm going to ask someone to watch me. Anything that we said that we can kind of tap into, okay, I really want to do well this time, is an opportunity, using our appraisal language, to train that.
All right,
Question.
that's our last question.
Okay.
Were you done with that?
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Okay, we have a 5-minute break. So,
Yeah.
I know many people do. Okay, so I wanted to thank the Heights again for hosting us. So this is Alina. She is the general manager at the Heights, and she's just going to talk a little bit, just briefly about the Heights, and then she gets to introduce me because I thought it was weird to introduce myself.
So first of all, we're really excited to have you guys here. This is our first event in this space. So thank you for coming. It's the first of many. We're always looking to expand our community. A lot of you I've maybe never seen here before, so it's great that you're here. Right now we're offering a really good trial, 2 weeks to come to the club and explore the entire community. You can get on the paddle courts, the squash courts, the pickleball courts with us with no court fees whatsoever. So if any of you are looking to get involved with us, please meet me after. I will also be doing a demo of paddle on the courts as well at 9 p.m. so I can show you the ropes there. And thank you for the introductory, Keely. Now I'll introduce you. Our next speaker is Keely, a board-certified sports clinical specialist, certified athletic trainer, and owner of Superior Physical Therapy located here in the Heights. Keely has more than 2 decades of experience in outpatient orthopedics and sports medicine. She earned her degree in exercise physiology from the College of St. Scholastica, following her master's degree in physical therapy. She later completed a sports medicine residency with Minnesota Sports Medicine and became board certified sports physical therapy in 2008, a distinction held by fewer than 2% of physical therapists in the country.
Let's go.
She has also presented at sports medicine conferences throughout Minnesota and across the country. Keely works with athletes of all ages and abilities, from recreational players, collegiate, and professional athletes. Her practice specialized in treating racket sport athletes, and she developed and implemented off-court training programs for elite professional pickleball players to improve their movements efficiently, physically, capability, and performance. As both a physical therapist and a racket sports athlete herself, Keely understands that staying healthy and performing well requires more than simply playing the sport. Tonight, she'll discuss how mobility, strength, balance, agility, and conditioning can help you move more efficiently, reach balls, recover faster, and remain competitive for years to come. Please join me in welcoming Keely.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Kind of wrote a long intro for myself. Sorry about that. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about how your off-court training can actually build a more complete racket athlete. So we're going to start with a show of hands. With our first slide, how many hours per week do you play your sport? So people who play 1 to 2 hours only, raise your hand. Oh, all right, we got one. All right.
I do a lot of sports.
Yeah, okay. That's okay. So 3 to 4 hours per week. Okay, a couple more people. 5 to 6 hours. Kind of probably the majority here. Okay, 7 to 8 hours. Got a couple there. Anyone more than 8 hours a week on average? I knew Tate. You played 12 hours in one day. All right, Dr. Gorman. All right. Okay, so next question is, how many hours a week do you spend practicing or drilling? All right, how about the truthful zeros? All right. Oh, there's a lot. All right. All right, that's okay. No judgment. Sorry, no judgment. All right, how about 1 to 2 hours a week of drilling or practicing? Okay, good. How about 3 to 4 hours per week? Good. Any more than 4? Got a couple? Yep. All right, so here's my next one. How many hours per week do you spend off the court training for your sport? How many are at 0? Okay, I like the honesty. Good. How about 1 to 2? Okay, good. 3 to 4? Okay, good. Anyone more than 4? Yeah, we got a couple. All right. Okay, so why should we do off-court training? Number one, what if you could get to one more ball in a rally, right? Yeah, that's one of those sayings: one more ball, put one more ball in play. If you could reach one more ball, right? So if you have the conditioning, the legs, the whatever to get to one more ball, what about this? What about being in a better position to hit the next ball, right? I can be in a position where I've got multiple shot choices versus, just kind of throwing it up there and hope it lands in. How about recovering faster before the next point, especially if you're a singles person, right? So kind of actually having your lungs back before you're ready for the next point. Playing longer without dead legs, and people my age, avoiding shoulder and knee pain, right? That's another good reason to do it. All right, so because everyone here is from different sports, I kind of wanted, some of you are very familiar, like I think everyone's probably familiar with tennis. We get to see it on TV quite a bit. So we're gonna watch a couple clips of each sport. And I want you to not watch the ball. I want you to actually watch what the individual's bodies are doing. So what physical qualities make the plays possible, okay? And then the other thing to kind of think about as you're watching these videos are, number one, what do all these racket sports have in common besides a racket or a paddle in their hand? And then what is unique about each sport? Okay, so our first one we're going to watch is from the Wimbledon finals here. So what you're going to watch here is I want you to watch Sinner on the far side of the court. And again, don't watch the ball. Watch what his legs are doing. Watch what his trunk is doing, his arms, his spine. Okay. So, I mean, that's pretty amazing for how much court he covered, what positions he got his body in, how quickly he recovers, how quickly he can whip, that forehand. So there's a lot of really amazing things that we ask our body to do. So with our last, I mean, if you're thinking through things, you can't do that, right? Okay. So next sport, we are going to do squash. This is a super long point, which many squash points are. We're going to watch the player in red. In the beginning, you can watch both players because they're both kind of doing some similar movements. They move differently to hit the ball. That's more something I'm interested in, is kind of what position does each player hit the ball in. But as the rally goes on, you're going to start to see what the player in red is asking his body to do and what he is successfully able to do. All right, so think how many squats they do per point, you know?
Whoa.
You missed the commentary. The guy who's commentating says he's pirouetting out there. Thank you. Should have looked that up before I. He did, yeah. And think if he hadn't stepped on that, it might keep going. So first of all, there's some things about this guy's body. He's long and lengthy, right? He can reach halfway across the court. Mo, you can reach further than me. I can't guard the kitchen as good as you. So part of it is just like the physical qualities of his body, but like it's amazing what he made his body do, the flexibility and the agility and the repeatability of how many squats and lunges they do per point. If you've ever tried, I played 1 point of squash against Adam, the old GM, who is, I think he was ranked 7 in the world or something in doubles, and he had fun with me out on the squash court. I about had a heart attack. He didn't move from the center of the court. Okay, so next up here, we have some pickleball. We have 2 athletes in the room that are in this video. So Mo here is in the near side, and his brother Moda is in the far side. I had to find a clip of these 2 playing each other. so So what you're going to watch is we're actually going to watch Mo's body movement throughout the point. Part of the point he's really balanced. Part of it's Moda's making him run all over the court. So you're just watching what does his body have to do to make these plays. So again, don't watch the ball. Watch what Mo here is doing. Okay, pretty fun. I don't know. It's fun for me. I'm not related to him. Yeah. I don't know. It's fun to watch those two play each other, even though I'm sure that's not really fun for you guys. But okay, so we're playing it again. All right, so now we have Padel. So you can watch any athlete on here; they are all moving all over the court the entire point. Just again, you don't have to tell you what to look for. You'll see what their bodies are doing for this point. All right. So pretty amazing what we ask our bodies to do. So we're going to talk about first kind of the similarities between these sports. All racket sports, they have phases where you have to accelerate very quickly, and then you have to decelerate very quickly so that you can change directions, recover. There's a lot of rotation in the sport. And like I said, the recovery is in there as well. Okay. So some other things, it's a multi-directional movement sport. So you think of I don't know, running for a lack of a better thing. You're going in a straight line. We are going in every direction. There's a lot of rotation. Force transfer is, I'm trying to use my legs to make the force go up my trunk through my shoulder and arm. We have to be efficient with our movements so that number one, during the point, I can continue to play, but really towards the end of my match, I'm still able to function highly. The acceleration and deceleration we talked about, repeated explosive effort. So just that squash point. Gosh, that's 1 point. It's amazing. And then recovery within the point and between points. Obviously, there's some differences. So I just kind of named a couple big ones here. With tennis, obviously, we have the huge court coverage, right? There's the overhead serve and a lot of rotation, and then the possible long match tolerance, right? For going 5 sets. With squash, as you can tell, the kind of getting to the deep corners of the court, recovering to the center of the court between each point, and that repeat effort of squat, lunge, 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 lunge. With pickleball, I showed a clip of singles. With doubles pickleball, the kitchen is 7 feet, so you're 14 feet away from your opponent and trying to see how hard you can hit it at them. So there's really close range reactions. Kind of in general, kind of staying lower with pickleball, and then that quick attack, but also then switching from an attack to a reset. And then with Padel, obviously reading the ball off the glass, you have a lot of forward backward transitions and a lot of rotational overheads. Okay, so when we're looking at doing off-court training, there's 2 things you want to consider. Number one, we want to train for what position we'd like to hit the ball in, right? So if I want to hit my backhand, how do I want my body to be? If I would hit my perfect forehand, how do I want my body to be? So you need to train your body to be able to repeatedly do that. But also, I need to prepare for chaos, because not every point am I in the perfect position with each play. That'd be great. Just like you were saying, you can't control your feelings, right? You can't control the match that you're in the perfect position every time. So the first video clip is Moda. He's going to arrive early. He's going to be very balanced. He hits the ball. He has options. I can hit it down the line. I can hit it cross court. And the second, which is the very next ball, he gets pulled way off the court. So he's a little bit, I don't know if desperation is the right word, but not in the best position. So this one, his backhand, you can see Easy, just like he's kind of hitting with his brother. It's easy though, right? He's kind of in a perfect position. He can hit it where he wants to. And then the very next point, he's pulled way off the court. Now he happens to hit a winner ATP, which is why I had this video clip, anyways. But I mean, that's not the ideal, right? He doesn't want to have to hit that point, but that's the shot he had. He just happened to have hit it. Now, if the Fed here was able to return that ball, he's way off the court, right? So he's going to have a heck of a time getting back on if he actually returned that. So we got to plan for both ideal and realistic. Okay, your opponent's job is to take away your plan A, anyways. Oops. Okay, so we're going to talk about 6 athletic qualities that we need to have as part of your off-court training program. Number 1 is mobility. So can your body get into the positions that your sport demands? So whether that's your ankle, your hip, your back, that kind of thing. So when you have mobility, it creates options for you. Okay, so mobility is very important. But if you have the opposite is true, if you have restrictions, that creates force compensations, right? So if I can't move my ankle this way, I'm going to do what? I'm going to bend at my back or something like that. And that's not going to be as ideal. I might pop the ball up. I might hurt my back. There's a lot of compensations that we don't want. And then players can only use the range that they can control. Okay. So if someone is like really loosey goosey or they have a ACL tear or something like that, if they can't control the mobility they have, they can't use it. So mobility isn't just more range, it's a functional range. So if we watch player in red again, look what his body has to be able to do. John, can you do that? Yeah. Yeah, it's not just a wimpy hit. Yeah. So we have to have there's a reason he's number 1 in the world, right? So we have to have the mobility. Now, mobility comes in different forms. Some of these are not very exciting, but I added video. So this is a hamstring stretch, right? So why do we have to make our hamstrings flexible, especially guys, right? So if my hamstrings are tight, guess what bends? My back, right? If my hamstrings don't allow me to get lower. So we want the hamstrings flexible so that I can get low for points. Moda here is doing part of the world's, can I not get this to click? The world's greatest, this is annoying, there you go. The world's greatest stretch. So he's working on his mid-back rotation as he's doing his hip flexors. So it's called the world's greatest stretch because you're getting a whole bunch of muscles and body parts all at once. So it's not just holding a stretch like a hamstring, it's moving through your available range. We also can combine it also with strengthening. So Moad here is doing kind of a hip flexor stretch with trunk rotation as he's working his core at the same time. So you can fit mobility into your strength training, or you can just, like this one here, you just getting on a table and you're stretching whatever's tight on you. Okay. So if you have areas that you know are tight, my hamstrings stink, my hip flexors are tight, my shoulder is really tight, you want to stretch that after you're done playing when your body is nice and warm. But part of your off-court training should be general mobility needed for your sport. Okay, and like I said, sometimes we got a tight piriformis, so we just got to stretch that. Okay, so you want to bring some mobility into your training program. Oops. I'll get it to go to the next slide. There we go. The second athletic quality is strength, right? We have to have enough strength to do our activity. So, with racket sports, we need to have strength in each leg because when I hit a forehand, I'm going to load one leg more than the other, and same thing with the backhand. And I don't know how many lunges you saw in the squash. We do it a ton. So we need to do single leg activities. This is just a version of a Bulgarian squat that Jordan's doing. And he's just loading up one leg. So it's just plain strength. You got to get the glutes going, the quads and everything, and use some heavy weight. The second exercise I'm showing you a video of is a landmine press. So now we're doing not only strengthening, but we're transferring the weight throughout our body and transferring it like a kinetic chain, legs, core, trunk, arm. Okay. So you can do strengthening like that. And because we do racket sports, we need to have some rotational component to our strength training, such as a half kneeling cable pull. Okay. So core, getting those legs nice and strong, and then a little bit of the kinetic chain in there. All right, just gonna go through each video. Okay, now who wore it better? Strength edition. So here we're gonna look at two different athletes. So this is what I do for a living: is I watch people move. And so we're gonna take two videos, and you'll, especially on the second video, I think it's very easy to see the difference between the two athletes. On the first video, I'm one of the athletes, and I'm the one with the issue, so I'll tell you the secret. So Sumi and I are going to be doing the exact same exercise, and as we watch the video, I have some arrows in here that'll kind of point it out. I move different than her, okay? So I'm moving through my butt and my back. You can see me get quite a bit lower than her on the squat, and it's, or the side lunge, and it's not because I'm doing it better. It's because I have a partially torn patellar tendon. I can't bend my knee as far as her, so I'm choosing to do it with my butt. Okay, and so here's me trying to hop, and you can see me compensating here as well. I'm dropping my opposite hip because either I can't load the joint or it's too painful. Okay, so what we're looking for when we do individualized training sessions, it's a little harder with group. Sometimes we try our best during group, but individualized training sessions is, how is your body moving? How are you compensating, and why? And we kind of correct those things. So the second video, you're going to see Elliot and Mia doing the same exercise. It's like a 3-part slider lunge, which if you've never done it, no one likes them, but they're good for you. The forward direction is where you're going to see a huge difference between the two athletes doing this, okay? So as we watch the forward direction, I'll kind of pause it here as they get a little bit lower. All right, so they look like they're doing two different exercises. So Mia, her trunk is up, her chest is out, her butt's back, right? I'll comment more about her lower half, but she looks really good in that upper half. Elliot there is rounded out and stretching his arms for the ground because he thinks he's getting lower. So now we'd have to go in and look at, why can't he get as low? Is it his knee? Is it his hip? Is it his ankle? Why can he not move that well? So, well, that's what I have to tease out, right? So in this video, like, Elliot doesn't look good doing this forward direction. So I'm hopefully chirping at him or telling him something to do. But then we look at Mia. So she looked good in that upper half, but if you look at her bottom half, her knee is kind of going inward, right? It's a super common problem for females to have, that our knees go inward. It happens with males too, but it's very common. And so we'd want her to kind of pull her knee out a little bit as she does this. So if you watch the rest of it, the other two side lunges, they look fairly similar, fairly good. So it's just that forward direction is kind of pulling out a difference between the two. So anyway, so that's kind of what I do when I do kind of individual, whether it's physical therapy or I'm doing training with someone, is not only do I give them exercise, like, here's what you should do, but now let's do it properly, right? And if you can't do it properly, why? And let's figure out how we can get there. Okay, so now the third athletic quality is power. So if strength is your engine, power is how quickly you can use it, right? And so when we think about power, we think about moving quickly. So plyometrics is an easy way to kind of work on your power. And so we can do something as simple as, this is a static split squat here that Moad's doing, and he's just whipping that ball into the wall. He's working on his trunk rotators. This is his forehand right here. So it's very applicable to his sport, but he's not going to get that doing slow motion things. He has to kind of whip a ball quickly. So then with Jamie here, we added in some side shuffling and then throwing the medicine ball. So you can kind of add to a component in, which is movement with the plyometrics. And then, now this is for people like Moad, who's young and healthy and athletic. But this next move, I'm sure I told him what to do. I didn't demonstrate this one. So he's doing a box jump. So he's jumping over this, landing on one leg and changing direction into a hop, right? That's difficult to do. Okay, so that's not the first day stuff, or that's not 48-year-old Keeley stuff. Okay, and then volley here. So now we're doing a single leg hop, and she's catching a medicine ball and throwing it. So we're getting kind of the whole kinetic chain going. And by the way, she's having to work really hard to control her knee movements, because that's hard for her to do. Okay, so we want to get some power in. So you got to do stuff quickly. not only does it help you with your sport, but as you get older, that's actually what helps your tendons stay nice and strong as well. Okay, so if you're my age, your tendons are not so good. So we need to bring in some plyometrics, and you start low and you work yourself up and get harder over time. You don't have to start with big box jumps, but that's something that a lot of people miss. Okay, so next one, dynamic stability. This is a fancy way of kind of saying balance, but it's not just like standing on one leg with your eyes closed. We want to dynamically balance because your sport isn't standing on one leg with its eyes closed. I'm trying to move across the court, hit a ball, and then change directions. And so the first one, we use a compliant surface. So that's like a Bosu ball or something kind of squishy to stand on, to really challenge the stability of the athlete. And then we're going to ask him to do some rotation here. This is super hard. Don't feel like you have to start there. You can just step back in a lunge without that Bosu ball, and that's plenty hard. And then we can do kind of a deceleration or landing. At the same time, we're trying to control what the knee and hip and everything are doing. All right, so you're decelerating from a compliant surface. And again, you can always add a component of I'm stabilizing, catching, and throwing all at the same time. So there's a variety of things you can do for that dynamic stability. It doesn't need to be I'm standing on one leg with my eyes closed. I'm just trying to control my body through dynamic movements. Okay, so this one, oh, sorry, I know it's coming, so I'm giggling. So this is about acceleration and deceleration. So we need to accelerate, obviously, to get to the ball, decelerate so that I can hit the ball and then change directions. So we're going to watch this player in the corner here, Lincoln. So Lincoln's going to show us how to accelerate, okay? So he first accelerates to the corner, then he's going to sprint up to the net, play a little net ball, sprint back. So deceleration is just as important as acceleration, which Lincoln found out the hard way. He did not decelerate till he hit the wall. So that's how you break the wall. Now, so we obviously don't want that to happen, and also a lot of injuries happen when we're trying to change directions. So we actually want to train that. So this is an example of Jordan here has a bungee cord pulling him forward. He's also jumping forward to get a little momentum, and then he's landing on one leg and trying to stop that force. So if you think about, whatever your sport is, you're hitting and then changing direction. So that's super important. This video here is Moda doing like a bounding, which is a power movement. And then he's going to accelerate into a sprint. And then I gave him a very short stopping point. There's a cone you can kind of see, and there's a wall. And so he's got to stop before the wall. So this is a great drill to work on your speed and power, but also your deceleration. Okay. So you want to build in deceleration and acceleration. And okay, so the last athletic quality is recovery and repeatability. So if you think about those repeated high quality efforts, you want your last hit to be as good as your first hit, but in set 5, right? And so you want to have enough conditioning that you can continue to use good strength, good mobility, good position to hit your ball at the end. And you want to maintain that movement under fatigue. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about your individual sports and how you should condition like your speed work on court. So for singles, okay, singles first, I'm going to talk about the work to rest ratios. Okay, so for tennis, you work on a 1 to rest, 2 to 5 to 3 to 5 ratio. So in realistic terms, the average point is 7 to 8 seconds, and then your recovery is 20 to 24 seconds. Obviously, there's aces and there's long rallies, but that's kind of in general how long a point goes. So with pickleball, you have a 1 to 3 ratio. So you have 6 to 9 seconds, depending on your male or female, and then 18 to 24 seconds of recovery. So when you're doing stuff to work on your actual conditioning, kind of thinking about, okay, I got to do this in about 8-9 seconds, and then I only get 20 seconds or so to recover. So we build that into a lot of the training programs. Squash is 2-to-1 work to rest ratio. So their average length of point, 18 to 20 seconds, and then their average time to recovery is half, 8 to 10 seconds, like half of the other sports. Yeah. Yeah. So according to my AI that did the math for me, but AI makes mistakes, so check it. So and with squash, sometimes you're working 85-90% of your maximal heart rate for much of the match. So that's a challenge to keep that up. And then the long rallies, we saw that one that was 45 seconds. They can last up to 90 seconds. So for doubles, now tennis is very different ratio. It's a 1-to-5 ratio. There's a lot of like big serves and poaching, which shorten that up. And so the recovery time is about the same, but the length of the point is less. For pickleball, you're going to have a little bit longer rallies, so 8 to 12 seconds, and then recovery is still 18 to 25. For squash doubles, you're going to get 2 to 3-to-1, so 20 to 40-second rallies, and 10 to 15 seconds between points. And then padel, the average point is 15 to 20 seconds with 10 to 15-second recovery. All right, so a couple more things. How am I doing on my time? I'm getting a little long. Okay, so plyometrics, it's how you take off, how you land, how do you redirect. It's not just how high can I jump. So Nikita is showing us good control of his landing and pushing off. When we do power, we also want to add rotation into it. So here we're showing kind of some rotational power with Jordan here. Zip through these ones. So it's just adding rotation to the power. Okay, so then if we want to pull it all together, so we have mobility drills, we have strength, we have some power. So you want to have all of this in there. We've got stability. Here's Moa doing some acceleration, some footwork on going back for a ball. And then like this conditioning drill, you'll see is about 7 seconds of lateral movement on the court, add a little sprint at the end, decelerate so you don't run into the net. And so that's kind of how you can kind of figure out all the components of your off-court training. Okay, so 1 hour challenge. So this week, don't add 1 or 2 more hours on the court. Add 1 hour off the court. If you only had an hour each week to become a better athlete, what would you spend it out on? And hopefully now you know. Okay. Any questions before I went really long? So any questions before I move to the next speaker? Yep.
Some testimonies about these athletes. Like I've felt this kind of. No, I mean I've been working with Keely for the past how long? 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
Yeah, she tremendously changed my game. I was struggling like recovery between points and moving fast. I mean these athletes were competing against that's their full-time job, so keeping up with them took me a while, but I finally got Keely, and since then she put me under her wing and trained me very hard. And you see the work and all that pays out in tournaments.
I get a lot of comments about people feeling like they notice a change fairly quickly from when they start.
Just my endurance, the speed, the explosiveness. So I mean, I highly recommend if you're looking to take your game to the next level is to do stuff like that on the court. You're not gonna see it the first few maybe months, but it will pay off eventually.
All right, so now thank you. We're gonna move to Mo, keynote speaker. Let me get your PowerPoint up here. I'm not tech savvy, so the fact that this has worked so far is amazing. Okay, so our keynote speaker is Mo Alhouni, a professional pickleball player who competes on the PPA Tour in singles, men's doubles, and mixed doubles. Originally from Libya, Mo went on to have exceptional tennis career at Gustavus Adolphus. He earned 5 All-American honors, 3 in singles, 2 in doubles. He competed his collegiate career with 109 singles victories. In 2017, he won the ITA Division III National Singles Championship and rose to the #1 singles ranking in NCAA. He was later named ITA National Senior Player of the Year, Gustavus Male Athlete of the Year, and Gustavus Male Athlete of the Decade. After graduating, Mo joined Lifetime in 2018 as a teaching professional, where he developed a passion for coaching and helping others improve their game. As pickleball grew in popularity, he embraced the challenge of a new sport and transitioned to professional pickleball in 2023. Today, he competes on the PPA Tour while continuing to coach and inspire players of all skill levels. Beyond the Court, Mo is a co-founder of Oya Sports, which is a pickleball paddle and bag company, of Havana Juice, which produces fresh cold-pressed juice. And he is passionate about sharing the lessons he has learned through competition, including resilience, discipline, mindset, and the pursuit of continuous improvement. Tonight, Mo will share his journey from collegiate tennis to professional pickleball and offers perspective on what it takes to compete and continue to improve at a high level. So please join me in welcoming keynote speaker Mo Alhouni.
Thank you. All right. Can you all hear me? Good? Okay. Well, thank you all for being here today. And I know, well, first of all, thank you for Keely and your team for hosting us. I think tonight without you, it would have not happened. So I really appreciate you. And then for all of you for sticking along. I know we had some amazing speakers who are really passionate about what you guys do. So it's really cool to hear from you. And now it's almost like you're going to just hear from somebody just talking about themselves for a little bit. So so hopefully you learned what you needed to learn from these guys, but it's really cool to see you guys do what you do too, and just kind of try to spread the love of what you do to the world. So and obviously after this, I hope you're still awake to play some pickleball and have some fun with me. So but yeah, so I'll get going here just to make sure I'm on the right spot. Okay, so a little bit about myself. I know you introduced me with some of this stuff, but I actually moved to the U.S. in 2011 at 15 years old. Came from Egypt, and then even though I'm originally from Tripoli, Libya, but my dad was born in Egypt, and we came in with me and my older brother during the Arab Springs, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with, but you can do some research, and it's basically a civil war that happened in North Africa and some of the Middle East, including countries like Libya, Tunisia, Egypt, and some other neighboring countries. So for him and I, we really wanted an outlet to come and be able to continue with our academics as well as our tennis, which is a sport that we knew since I was like 5 years old. So it was either that, come here, or stay back home and really spend the time there, and maybe it would have had a totally different path. So till this day, I'm really grateful to come here. And actually, I remember when I first moved here, I moved to Duluth, Minnesota. So coming from the culture and the country of the hot to like here was definitely a culturally shocked moment. But I remember calling my mom and dad after a month, just saying, "Hey, I miss you guys. I miss the food, miss friends, family, but the biggest culture shock was the weather, obviously." So but then I had an amazing host family who hosted me here, and now they're like family to us. We really see them during holidays, during any time, and they opened the doors for me and really made the adjustment become a lot more, just settle into what I needed to do. And from there, I've been just stayed here. Moved to the cities in 2013 because in Duluth, all my best friends were hockey players. I did not have any tennis there. So I remember making the jump from every weekend. Literally, my host mom would drive me for tournaments here because all the tournaments were up here in the cities. So I was able to make that. But one day I talked to them and decided to make the move here just to try to make a name for myself up here. And from 2011 to 2013, I went to school at Plymouth here in West. Finished schooling there. Then we transitioned to Gustavus Adolphus College, where part of the reason why I went there because my brother was a senior and then I was a freshman. So I wanted to play a sport that I thought originally was an individual sport, but to put in a team sport, and knowing that they had a team there, I wanted to kind of go there and then just enjoy the time there. So from there, I ended up getting my master's in sports management at the University of Minnesota, which worked with the tennis team as well as a graduate assistant for that 1 year they had, and then they unfortunately cut the men's tennis team. So that was really hard. I remember it was hard on the coaches, it was hard on the players, and I was just a graduate assistant coach. I was just kind of hanging around, but I know how hard it is for the Gophers. So if we have any Gophers here, my heart is with you guys. So then from there, I oops, sorry. Okay, there you go. So yeah, like Keely said, I've been coaching since 2016, almost 10 years now, and then till now at Lifetime. And then from there, I turned pickleball pro in 2023, so a little after COVID. And now I basically coach, mentor, athlete, and then I do a little bit of different things as well. So, um, oops. All right, so where it all started. So in back home in 12s and unders and 14 and unders, I actually was lucky enough to represent the Libyan national team in tennis, and we played for an organization called the ITF, which is the International Tennis Federation. And if you think about it, like here, people that play in their respective sports, they will travel from state to compete, whether it's from here to Florida to California to Texas. Back home, we actually did that, but we traveled from country to country. So at a younger age, I was fortunate enough to probably travel to about 80% of Africa, North Africa, East Africa, some in Europe as well, and that just traveling and playing these tournaments. So I was always, in a way, helped me become more diplomatic, and that's the only thing that I think sports can take you if you start at a younger age. So that's for sure one of the things that I still till this day I'm very grateful for, and I don't talk about a little bit about it. So, but then I moved here to the cities, tried to play high school tennis here, but they would not allow me to play high school tennis because the year I moved here, um, I think the high school committee, they made the rule that if you came to the US not in an exchange program, you're not allowed to play varsity sports. And until this day, I'm not sure what the reason is, but I have a feeling, and don't come at me if you went to Edina, but I know the high school, they used to actually bring hockey players from Canada and other states, and they used to win state, and then those players will just go home or stay for a little bit, and then they basically tried to make it where you can't, you just can't. You either come here, and I was able to play JV, so I actually did JV basketball, that sport that I never played. I heard of it back home, so I jumped and did some of that with some of my peers and friends there. But that was kind of the transition. So when a lot of my friends were playing high school tennis, I actually stayed and played the USTA tournaments in 16 and under. Was able to go to Florida, Texas, California. Just kind of was my first traveling around the country here before I kind of went to college. So and after that, I went to school at Gustavus Adolphus College. Like I said, played on the team, and that was my first time knowing that there is a team in an individual sport. And you may think that tennis has doubles, so you have partners, and that technically is a team, but in reality, it's still not. You're still playing for yourself. So being in a team really teaches you. I'm sure a lot of us took a sport, especially the adults here at a younger age. It doesn't need to be tennis. It could have been other sports. But I'm sure you really learned the discipline, the work ethic, the consistency in what you do. And most importantly, I know, Doctor, you talked about it, but the competing under pressure, right? I think that's something you can cherish with you. And it took with me and taught me a lot outside of that. But the biggest thing that I think a school that I went to, they had this concept and the philosophy of the three crowns, okay, which is positive attitude, full effort, and sportsmanship, okay. And those three, as simple as they mean, it really helped me make tennis the easiest part of my life, knowing that I came from a different country, survived war, came here, and built another life to myself. But with that philosophy, it truly helped me understand. And I actually worked with a sports psychologist. Her name was Dr. Sindra, like I was talking with you, Matt, about. She truly, truly helped me. I would say she's the only reason I won that national title. It was not my skills. It was not my tennis. Because I was always defining myself, okay, based on how good Mo is at tennis. I was always like that. I remember as a freshman, as a sophomore, I would lose to one of my teammates in practice, and that guy could be playing 14th on the team, and I was expected to always be the number one. And as soon as I lose a practice set, right, it could be even close match, the first thought came to my head is always, what would Coach Tommy think of me? Or actually, I played under Steve Wilkinson as well, if you guys know who he is, for 1 month before he had passed away. But I was always like freaking out. Like what is he thinking of me? Am I still valued? Like, do they still think Mo that is still Mo, or am I undervalued a little bit? And actually, I don't talk about this stuff other than here probably for the first time. So I keep this stuff to myself. But yeah, that was kind of the first eye opening to me that a sport can be the easiest thing that you do. The rest is there's much bigger to life than that. So that's a little bit about Gustavus and my experience there. And actually, if you notice in my earlier slide, I said started coaching in 2016, not 2018. And that's because I did teach at the first time I stepped a foot and taught was at tennis on life camps at Gustavus Adolphus College. Okay, I remember going to my senior year. I did not know what I was going to do. Right, I know could have majored in sports and in management undergrad, business management, and I knew that I took some internships, marketing internships, sales, did all that in college. But I'm not gonna lie to you, as I was graduating, like every other senior, right, I did not know what my future was gonna look like. And I actually driving home from St. Peter to the cities, I had a conversation with my mom, and the first thing she asked, so when are you gonna, what job are you gonna get, right? Like, what's the corporate world gonna be like? Are you gonna get a job like your older brother who have a stable income, right? Have something set for him. What is your next move? And told her quite honestly, I don't know, right? I said it's going to be tennis for now because tennis life camps made me know and think that I'm a good coach at what I do. But I told her my simple answer was, I'm not sure where tennis is going to take me, but it is going to take me somewhere, not knowing where it is. So moved to the cities, to St. Louis Park, lived in that area for a little bit. I actually worked at Lifetime in St. Louis Park as my first job there, teaching tennis. And the first thing I did before I stepped on a good coach is I took a note card. I wrote that I made a promise to myself that I will not be like specialized in a specific group, because that's one thing that coaches will fall a trap into. Is you can be like a high performance coach, just specialize in that. You can work with adults. You can work cardio tennis. Okay, you can work with beginners, you can work with kids. So like I've noticed all my peers or pros around the area would have high turnover just because they just specialize in one thing for a few years and then they're done. Okay, so for me, the one thing that till this day kept me going was simply just made a promise to just teach everybody at any level, any age. Similar to you, Dr. Matt, is that I started with a kid at 5, 6 years old, and now I work with people at 70 plus years old. So like having that, it truly teaches you taught me at least how to communicate to others, how to work with everybody at any skills, and just building relationship through a sport, which I didn't know existed. Until this day, I still build relationship through sports because that's all I know. I've always said it. I'm always attached to my sports, whatever I'm doing for that moment. But you can truly build a strong relationship through something that you enjoy and love. Okay, but yeah, so that's kind of the main path. And then moving into pickleball. Actually, pickleball for me initially was played for fun. Okay, and this is another story that not a lot of people know, but I'm excited to share it with you guys because it just really it can show you that something can start for fun, whether it's your job or some sport. For me, that can turn into something more important, right? But I remember a meeting that the founder of Lifetime, who's in the picture here with me, about like maybe a year right after COVID, a year, yeah, under a year, and I've worked with him in tennis, worked with all three of his kids. And one day at Lifetime in St. Louis Park, after I finished, his partner and the parent of his kids came and dropped him. And then I think I just kind of shook her hand. And I'm like, okay, so I worked with the dad, worked with the three kids, but I have not worked with you. Do you not play tennis? Like, have you not, like, what's your deal, basically, right? And she said, no, not one. Like everybody's busy doing what they're doing, so I haven't gotten a chance to play or pick it up. So I'm like, interesting. And I said, okay, so just so you know, there's this sport is just blossoming, right? I said, I haven't taught it, I haven't played it myself. And I know you're a beginner, and I have a feeling it is somewhat like everybody says, a little between tennis and ping pong. We looked at a picture on the phone, and I said, listen, maybe next week, my assignment is to go and figure out the measurements of a pickleball paddle, a pickleball court, and just try to replicate that on a tennis court. So then I go home, did some research. What are the measurements of a pickleball court on a tennis court? And remember showing in the office, going into Lifetime, asked for tape, just like any tape that you would use, colored tape. Brought it with me on the court, came 10 minutes before our session, taped it. Probably was not as accurate as it would have been. And there you go. I had like a little pickleball court. I think we bought paddles. Lifetime had then got like some, I don't know, paddles you can pick up at Target or wherever. Grabbed some of those, grabbed the ball, and then there she came, right? Again, neither her and I knew what we were doing. Like we did not know what we were doing then. but started playing, right? Just started moving the ball around, hitting, and after an hour, we had a blast. Okay, it was fun, right? Just for her to get cardio to get moving. And then the next time, right before we ended, next time we were talking about another session, and we ended up. I ended up telling her, "Hey, there's parks now coming up around the cities, so if you want, we can actually go out and do something do a session outside of Lifetime." And that was kind of risky because you don't really want to ask the partner's owner to do a lesson somewhere else other than club. She could have easily said, "No, we can do it here." But so I asked that. We ended up going to a park in St. Louis Park. Played again for an hour. It was nice to feel the environment there. And I remember after an hour, a group of people came. Right, like till this day, there's open plays, and they played for a little bit, and then after like 15 minutes, they asked us to join. And keep in mind, we only had an hour to play. That's it. Her and I ended up staying 2 more hours after that with the group of open play people, right? And had a blast, enjoyed it. And I think we said, sounds good, was fun. Maybe we'll do it again here next time. We go home, I go home. I have a feeling she must have whispered a little bit in his ears. Actually, next week, at that time, this guy was all doing tennis. That's it. He had nothing to do with pickleball. Oops, is this still working or no? Okay. Let's see. You may need to sign in. Anyways, so long story short, he ended up coming to the session after, right? He ended up the next session. We ended up doing the pickleball there, and soon enough, the next day, he would call all the clubs and, hey, let's move one tennis court to 3 or 4 pickleball courts. And from there, now you see we have about 600, 700, 800 courts around the country. So, but long story short, it's just started for fun, something that just I'm experiencing. I'm just trying to figure it out. And now we obviously, like everybody else, once you have fun, you want to compete a little bit. So I remember my first tournament was this one. Actually, I played in a 4-5 tournament at SLP. Yes, I did. Yes. 3-5. Oh, okay. So you were there, maybe. I can't remember what it was, but I remember honestly before making it, I just played. I think me and my older brother even played a couple of those when Lifetime then started hosting some of these tournaments. And I just had a blast. I had more fun than I've even competed or took it seriously. So, but from there, then I saw the opportunities to really go professionally, and that's where I turned pro in 2023. I played my first ever professional tournament in the PPA Tour, which is the governing body that governs the tournaments here. Well, there's two actually. There's APP and PPAs, but played the Lakeville one up here in Minnesota. Again, went in there not knowing what to expect, but I just saw a lot of players chasing a yellow ball, which is something I did most of my life. So ended up doing that. Saw a lot of tennis players or ex-tennis players are in there, so that even gave me a little bit more of a comfort, even though probably the better ones were not even tennis players that especially had doubles. So so was able to play that tournament, learned a lot. I also made sure that in that tournament, I would ask everybody that beat me, right? You lose a match to one of never didn't now I know most of them, but some I didn't know who they were. But like, hey, what can I do better? Somebody would tell me, okay, take more dinks out of the air. Or hey, maybe like your forehand is great. Disguise it a little bit more. Come home, practice, and just train and try to get better at it. But I have that middle point. There's challenges and sacrifices, and that's true. Till this day, you guys look at contents of people like Road to Pro, right? I'm sure each one of you saw that, like Road to Pro, trying to make it pro. And actually, for me, I played probably about 10 tournaments. And before I was signed, you couldn't really play the main draws. You had to play the qualifiers. And the qualies, usually you're playing 3 to 4 matches just to step a foot into the main draw, right? So I kept doing that. And why that was a little bit harder and challenging, because it was time consuming. I had a job, I was working. It was also money, spending a lot. Till this day, if you're not signed or have some sort of sponsorship, you're spending a lot of money. It may look cool on paper to go and try to play a pro tournament, but you're spending at least $1,200 every week here and there if you try to play every one. But the one thing that we saw that kept me going to the right path is every tournament I played, I would qualify and play the main draw. That kind of was a little bit encouraging to go to the next one and the next one and the next one. But after 7 or 8 of those, I was able to at least put my name out there a little bit, right? So you get a little bit of recognition. And then soon enough, the Major League Pickleball became a thing. MLP became a big thing. So I remember going to this combine. It was in Utah.
And we really was like 20 players that probably nobody have heard of, right? Back then, including myself. Did that training. There was 3 coaches that were there, and those coaches basically would watch us. I have some pictures that here of myself when I was in the Las Vegas Night Owls team in MLP. That's the team that I got drafted with. And fun fact, the owners were Kim Kleisters, who played tennis, and then Tom Brady then was one of the owners as well in his management team. So it's kind of cool to share some Zoom calls and talks with some of those guys. And I was like, kind of like pinch myself. These guys know about pickleball, and that's actually the moment for me that I realized that pickleball is going to be a thing. When you see some of these celebrities are actually jumping into the train and owning teams, right? But to talk a little bit more about this, again, I came from an individual sport of tennis at a younger age. That's all I knew. Came here, played college tennis, then realized there's team aspects of it, and you're playing for your team. And then to do PPA, play as just individual, one-on-one, and then sure enough, there's a team part of it. So that whole journey of that, it just teaches you that you can still play at any individual or team. You can still get something out of what you do and what you love, right? But I did that for about a year, last 2 years ago in 2024. Had a blast, enjoyed it. We were always traveling and playing. It was similar trips to tennis when we do, like college tennis, where you travel from, like play other teams, state to state. But this one was more, you just meet with your team. So I wasn't residing in Las Vegas, but I would just go to the practice before a tournament, like a week before, and we all would just show up there and get to know everybody. So, but that's kind of the MLP style that I really, that I'm really grateful for and enjoyed the part of it. Now, when you're doing that too, just know that if you have Pickleball TV on your channel, it gets trippy, right? There's a lot of talking, right? Fan gets into it, players get into it, coaches get into it. You may not even tell as much on TV until you are in person there. Then you will, then you kind of know and hear what's going on there. So, but that honestly taught me that regardless what you do, what sport you do, what I don't know, what work you do, there's always going to be something or somebody that's kind of coming at you, or tripping a little bit. So, let's see here. So some lessons I learned from competing, or at least the journey that I just explained from tennis. The first one is pressure is a privilege. And I'm really glad that Dr. Matt, you spoke a little bit about that before me, and the things that you guys learned, because that's really important. That's really true. If you're not building, for example, I think you had a question back there about how to do it when you're drilling, right? I think you have to feel the nerves, feel the emotions, build those into your body and embrace it, right? I used to be one that shies away from pressure, especially at a junior age. Like I said, always want to define myself with how good I am at a sport. To now, I feel like it should be something that you have to train and look forward to feeling that pressure. So if I'm not feeling butterflies, if I'm not feeling the nerves, I don't know, like the scarcity and going through it, that means I don't care enough. So till this day, I will tell all my players that, hey, like, what do you care? Like, if you don't care enough, you shouldn't be here. If you're not feeling pressure, you should not be here. Okay, so for whatever you do, whether it's pickleball, padel, squash, tennis, I think it's really important to try to think about that point, because whatever he talked about and spent 45 minutes talking about is really, really important. Okay, and dealing with that. So that's kind of the first point that I truly learned about. And then consistency, like I said, consistency beats perfection, and that's easy. Consistency meaning like the things you do every day matters. I used to not be good at that, like wake up, work out every day, eat proper nutrition, right? Eat good food. That's something I never really took advantage of or did until now in my adult age, especially playing pickleball. I have like it's pretty serious, and I have to do it more often. So doing something that you truly wake up and do every day is good. It's not boring. I came from a big court where we basically can spend 2-3 hours working on stuff. I can hit cross courts with somebody for 30 minutes. I can hit down the line with somebody for 30 minutes, for an hour, and I would not get quote unquote bored. But when I transitioned to pickleball, it's always okay. I'm in this smaller court. You're telling me I have to ding for, whatever it is, 30 minutes, an hour to try to get that skill down. That took a little bit more of a, mindset for me to be able to do that consistently every single day at practice. That was not easy. I used to not practice. I think when you asked first, like how often you spend time on court practice on court, I wasn't doing it enough. Especially the off-court stuff that Dr. Kier just talked about, was not doing that enough. So, so bottom line is just being able to have that, and adversity to me. That's the second to last point. That actually, I'm grateful that I came from somewhere else, because I was always facing adversity. And I think people face adversity differently in whatever you came from. But to me, I'm very lucky that I was able to, at a younger age, travel across the world playing a tennis sport, coming here, playing college tennis. You hear it from everybody. Even till this day, I make sure for the players I coach that they make sure to play one tournament a year outside the state, because we need you to travel and maybe go to the airport, grab your bags, wait, go check in a hotel with your family or just by yourself. Go show up to the tournament desk, win or lose a match, doesn't matter. You're gonna have to wait. You're gonna have to play the match, win or lose, and look forward for the next day. Come back and tell me about it. Like, what did you learn? What did you not learn? What worked? What didn't work? So all that, I think, can help with dealing with that adversity. So and the last thing is small habits that create big results, and that's easier. That's it's kind of intuitive, but at the same time, it's easier said than done. Small habits are simple, like the breathing exercises Dr. Matthew said. I think we all should use it. You know what I mean? Or even anything else that works for you. It should be really important to try to have these little things. If you don't eat good enough, nutrition, start with something small, right? And then build from there. So all these little things, I think, can help you shape up, at least for me, help me shape the person I am today in the sports that I do. So, and then let's see here. Okay, so beyond the court, like I said, so there is, from all the travels, from all the playings, going from tennis to pickleball, we obviously talked about discipline, resilience, confidence, leadership, and never stop learning, right? These are common things, to me at least, that I've learned, and to you guys too, just by your experience, your stories, things you've been through at your life, at your job, it's easy to get those things down and try to cherish them, try to take those and own them. But the biggest thing to me personally, when somebody asks me, like, what did you learn, right, from on the court, off the court, I would say adaptability, being adaptable. You have to do that, right? For us, for example, as tennis players coming to pickleball, I would say it took a second to be adaptable. It took a long time to be adaptable and actually take the sport a little bit more, right? And now outside of that, it's the same thing. Wherever I go, I try to fit in with the environment we're in. And that's why, going to my point earlier about teaching everybody at different ages, different levels, doesn't matter where they're at, it helps you be more adaptable. Okay. So I think all in all, it's truly like important to be able to experience that and go through it. So, and we have a younger brother too, who plays pickleball with us as well, who Dr. Killy had mentioned. He's kind of followed into that journey, and he's slowly building himself as well. But without the path that I've walked in first, and obviously my older brother walked in, it's hard to pave that. So with that said, I think what's next for me, obviously I'm going to continue to compete at a professional level. It's not easy. Like I said, we still pay the flying, the logistics, deal with all that. You may see it looks easy, but I truly encourage you, if you watch some of these videos of people trying to go pro, to watch the positives and the negatives about it, and it's all raw, it's all out there. So, but to me, I'm going to continue competing professionally, try to do it for pickleball as much as I can. I think I have about a year of my contract that we have with the PPA. So we'll see between now and the end of next year how that goes, and probably have to make some moves there. Truly, though, to be quite frankly honest, tennis is a sport that I'm obviously done competing, but I find a lot of joy coaching it. So I run an academy at Lifetime in Oakdale Village, where we have about 50 kids come. I will not compete or play with any of them, or maybe go play a tournament, but I will coach it. I'll coach it, and I find much joy doing it. Pickleball, I have not taught a private lesson of pickleball, because right now I'm doing it for me. You know what I mean? So once now I've done a clinic, it's like an hour and a half, you get a lot of people and just play with the pro style, that's fine. But teaching it and put 100% into it, that have not happened yet. And we'll see when that will happen. Bless you. And obviously grow the game. So back home, it's not popular yet. Paddle is huge. Padel is big back home. So we're trying to slowly bring the people. So I went there about maybe 2 years ago, and before that, it's been about 10 years since I went home and visited family and saw even my parents. But 2 years ago, I was able to go there. I was able to connect with some of my tennis community people, spread the word about pickleball, brought even some paddles. So slowly, I look forward to growing the game internationally as well, and see who can take it and embrace it as well. So and then obviously coach and mentor. That's something I enjoy to do. I would love to keep coaching and working with people and just kind of build relationship, like I said earlier, through sport. That's something I'm going to continue to do and love to do. And lastly, is the last thing is creating opportunities through sport, right? Whether it's pickleball for me, whether it's tennis, whether it's ping pong, whatever the case, golf, is something that we're going to continue to do because that's what I find joy in. So bottom line is, I know you're all here, come from different backgrounds of sports. I see some youngsters back there. Maybe you guys are soon trying to play pickleball at any level you want to play it at, or even padel. I'm not sure. But just truly try to take it a step at a time, one step at a time, because the end of the day is just a matter of it's you and your journey and how you make out of what you make out of it. People at first kind of made fun of us, right, for going from tennis to pickleball. Not gonna lie, it was a little hard to be proud of it. It was not easy. To say, even sometimes, even to say what people ask me, what do you do? I always say I just do different things. I took me a second to say I'm a professional pickleball player. You know what I mean? That kind of it really it was mentally a little bit tougher at first, but then it got easier and easier. So yeah, so that's kind of pretty much it. Oh, is it one more time? Sorry. Um, yeah. So basically, just know that journey was not something that okay moved from tennis to pickleball. Now, with what pickleball gave me too is to connect with some of these tennis superstars that were there. So as many of you maybe know, like Jeannie Bouchard is now on the tour. Jack Sock. I was lucky enough to partner up with Donald Young, a fellow lefty who played tennis, and we had these combos. And even from them, at their perspective for how good they were at a sport and have accomplished as much as they are, I asked Jack, like, why are you playing? Like, why are you playing pickleball? Why do you go from tennis, playing at the US Open? Donald Young just won mixed doubles at the US Open last year and still till this day comes and competes. And he just said simply, I just want to compete. I want to keep playing. I think my body still does it. And they see also the things around it, right? They see what's important around it. So to me, it's simple. It just gives me some sort of I don't know, like a chat, like a mindset that I still can do it and compete and have fun at the same time, and it's something that I'm gonna always keep doing until my body gives up, So let's see. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of the pretty much it for me. So I honestly, most of my talk, I want to just kind of let it out, talking a little bit about my journey. But what I'm excited about is kind of some of the questions that you guys may have, even coming before this. It can be pickleball related, tennis related, or it does not need to be. It can be something else too. So yes. Okay, go for it.
I was gonna say, what mindset, like for tennis and pickleball, kind of helps you the most, and how do you get there? Like I played tennis pickleball a lot in my life, and I feel like the mental side kind of held me back a lot. And like when you're sitting there about to return to serve in tennis or about to play pickleball, like what kind of mindset do you like to be in, and how do you get there?
That's a good question. So mindset is for me is to not think. We think, we already think and play. But I've done, like it took me a while to understand this, but lately I've literally been showing up and playing. I'm not really like I used to do it in practice. You hit 100 balls. Like think about Steph Curry. Why does Steph Curry shows up and hits like a random shot right before he starts the game and makes it? Everybody just goes crazy because he've hit those in practice so many times. So between me and you, the only thing that helps me personally before a tournament, I will show up, I will hit 100 serves, right? Hit 100 serve of the basket before you start, or as simple as just knowing that you put in the work, okay? And lastly, it's self-talk. I know you mentioned it, Dr. Matt, earlier, but self-talk, like how to talk to yourself is the best thing that helps you get up here and have a stronger mindset. Okay, I don't know like how to say it other than just saying it, but talk to yourself in between points. That number one, yes, that is the main thing. Is when I'm show up, grab my paddle, person's serve, I'm hitting the return, I'm coming in. I'm just playing the point as it gives, whatever it gives me, right? That's that. Now, between points though, like when you lose or win a point, is the talk the in between that will help you, right? I think I've tried breathing, like you said, did not work out as me. Take deep breath, go to the fence. At tennis, they say, okay, like fix your strings, right? Go tap your paddle here. You see some pros do it. But to me, the thing that works out personally is how do you talk to yourself? If you talk to yourself positively, it's going to be a good positive outcome. If you talk to yourself negatively, it's also going to be a negative outcome. So honestly, it just depends on what the situation is and who I'm playing. For example, like, okay, like if let's say I'm returning and I miss a ball, maybe I'll tell myself, no, use more legs, legs, legs. And I would just say legs like 5, 6 times. And then I slow myself down before going there. Then maybe I'll do the normal rituals that other people do. You guys see, like tap your paddle on the fence. But then after I had spoken to myself, whether it's I'm verbally doing it or whether it's in just my head, I'm simply talking. But yeah, just having these little things that you have to train is important. Now in practice, I never used to do it, but to your point, like a drill simply that you can do to help you mimic what he was talking about is set 5-minute timer and just count how many errors you make in 5 minutes. When you're doing a drill, literally, I'm not joking you. If you do that, that will build the butterfly. Start a breaker, start a set 9-0 and finish the breaker. Who wins that? If you do that and you do that consistently every single session, you will see. You will start feeling that nerves, that butterflies. Because without that, if you can't do that in a practice, you will not be able to do that in a match. So having those, little scenarios will help you. So, but you had one?
Thank you for sharing your story. You experienced sports in different places and countries, and one of the biggest pieces for me is how do we build more accessibility and that sports is joy for the kids, especially until they become, I want to go to the pro level where like competition and winning matters. But I'm noticing that very young kids in this particular culture, all of the sports become commercialized very, very early on, where they cannot even access the tennis, for example. It's very expensive. I could never afford to bring my kids to tennis because of the cost, right? So how do we make it more accessible? If you have any ideas?
That's a good question. I think we use our resources, right? Not everybody has the same. I actually sit on the board of Inner City Tennis as well.
Yes,
Okay, so let's take
yes,
right. So take Inner City Tennis, right? They're working with what they have. They're working with what they got. They don't really have too much going on, but they will try build programming by partnering up with Big Brother, Big Sister, and that brings them people, right? Having Big Brother, Big Sister, you're bringing somebody, give them a racket, give them ball. They don't really care where it's at. Doing that for as long as it takes is access, I think, to a sport. They don't need to spend a lot of money or be there, right? And it's also going to take the community around them, I believe, volunteering, right? Whoever it is, leaders in the organization or the people, the city, they have to volunteer their time. And is it easy to get somebody to volunteer their time? Not a lot. It's not that easy. They always want something out of it. So, but I think it's just generally just channeling the people around you, kids. Yeah, not everybody has it, so that's why my goal back home is the paddles that I have. I'm trying to ship some back home every other time. Nobody has to pay for it, but I can make sure that I make up for it somewhere else, and that's what it's gonna take. Doing the hard work, right? I mean, look at Kristen over here. She's been in the field for teaching, working in the management, and now she's here, trying to spread the word more about racket sport. Does she have to do it? Probably not, but she wants to do it. And I know that you want to do it for everybody, not just the people in here, just to get some people to be certified and to get coaching, right? So I don't know, just having the right community is really important. So
we've had a couple conversations about mindset, but for me, I'm a non-racket sport athlete, but I play pickleball now. Pickleball is the only sport where your opponent's energy is palpable as well as your partner's. One thing that it's really tough and difficult is when you're even killed, but your partner is either high energy, low energy, or if they make a mistake and they dump on themselves. So at the professional level, you know, chemistry is very important in pickleball. How do you manage the energy gap?
I think the biggest thing is tap and paddles. I mean, it's simple as that.
Yeah.
I've played with partners that, yeah, they can give you a hard time if you miss a ball, or they can be excited if you win a ball. I think for me, just doing a simple gesture as, hey, going, tap a paddle, just show them that you're there with them a little bit. I always teach my kids to do that because that will level things up. Let's say if in tennis, if somebody double faults, right? As it's like kids, especially. I see it a lot in juniors. Like if they're serving, they miss. The net person at the net's always like, as a kid, like I'm talking 12 and under, 16 under, that energy is down. What's that gonna make the server? So the first thing, could be in another court, I would yell it across the court, go right to your partner. You know what I mean? Just go straight to them, tap paddles, because obviously after COVID, tap paddles, look in the eye contact, something like that. That if they do it consistently, that will help a little bit, you know. So, but that's a good question. It's just hard, and that's why pickleball doubles is all about finding the right person. And I'm sure a lot of us play, or even padel. I'm sure a lot of us play, and it's hard to find the right partner that you mesh with. And partners, though, in pickleball too, is gonna get even more and more uptight. More. And you will watch the new documentary that the PPA is coming up with. They will talk about the partnerships and how it's getting a little bit more locked in. Now we have people hitting us up like for 2027 already for the next season, just because they know. And to me, I only right now pick people that I've played with, right? A couple that I've played with that are good, or that doesn't matter, that I've had good success with. Like even if we lost, but had good success with, like talking with them and having that energy, I'm fine running another tournament with them, even if we didn't have the best results, as long as you make me feel good. But that's really hard in pickleball. I'm not gonna lie. I don't have the best answer for you, but that's really hard to do.
But in tennis, like for example, with the stables, after double smash, after each point, the coach will make us go high five each other and eye contact and smile. You know, and I think that makes your partner feel better. Like literally, I used to get very mad at my partner who gave me a point or something.
Yeah.
It didn't work because I lost a lot of matches because of that. You know, and same thing. And us too, we play doubles together sometimes in pickleball, and we struggle with the chemistry sometimes. Yeah, we're brothers. We know we're good, but he misses. Like, what the hell? Why did he miss that point?
That's true. No, that's very. Look at Ben and Colin Johns. When people figured them out, they stopped playing as much, and like they may have the best dynamic as brothers. They know where everybody's hitting the ball, but it just in reality, it's hard, you know. So, and he was saying about a college kid high fiving, keeping eye contact. That's like, you know, so. But absolutely, yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Yes, of course. Yeah. Yes,
All right, that's it. Nothing else.
yes.
So
Let's go play
we
pickleball.
have 3 pickleball courts. We have 1 here, we have 2 here,
Thank you.
and then we
Not
have
too fast.
pickleball courts. And so you're welcome to do either one. Yeah. Thanks. That's it.
Thank you.